Recording on. Good morning. I'd like to call the Lyon County Board of County Commissioners to order. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, 9:00 a.m. The Board of County Commissioners convening these other boards. Members of the Board of County Commissioners also serve as the Liquor Board, Central Lyon Vector Control District Board, Mason Valley Mosquito Abatement District Board, Walker River Weed Control District Board, Willow Creek General Improvement District Board, the Silver Springs General Improvement District Board, and during this meeting may convene as any of those boards as indicated on this or separately posted agenda. Note this meeting may break between 11:30 and 1:30 for lunch. All commissioners are present and in chambers. The invocation is going to be given by John Poundstone of Joy Church, and please remain standing. Rob Jacobson, Commissioner Jacobson, is going to lead us in the pledge.
Good morning, commissioners, and good morning, everybody in the room. Heavenly Father, we thank you that your scriptures tell us that you are eager to help us out with wisdom and great choices. And you like to be in our presence and you like to guide us. And so we thank you for your presence. Father, I lift up this meeting to you. I ask you to help us each and all to comport our conduct, our choices, our words, our thoughts, that reflect in ways that reflect well on you. I especially pray this morning in these turbulent times for your peace, your mercy, your grace, and especially your protection for our first responders and their families, and even more so, and especially so for those who are serving on foreign soil. Thank you for all that you do for us and for being with us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This brings us to public participation. No action will be taken on any item until it's properly agendized. It is anticipated the public participation will be held at this time, though may be returned to at any time during the agenda. Citizens wishing to speak during public participation are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment after discussion on each agenda item, but before the board takes any action. Do we have any public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there any online? Okay, we're going to close public participation. Move on to number 5 for possible action, review and adoption of the agenda. Everybody read the agenda, and anybody want to make a motion?
Move to adopt the agenda as posted.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Hendricks, second by Commissioner Casanelli. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none in the room and none online, bring it back for a vote. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Number 6, presentation of awards and or recognition of accomplishments. For presentation only, present Deputy Benjamin Beck with the Lyon County Sheriff's Office Life Savings Award. Sheriff Pope.
Good morning, Lyon County Sheriff Brad Pope for the record. As you said, Sheriff Keller, today we're here to honor Deputy Benjamin Beck for his life-saving efforts. On March 16th, 2026, approximately 8:48 a.m., Deputy Beck arrived on scene at a motor vehicle crash involving an unresponsive motorist trapped inside the vehicle. Without hesitation, Deputy Beck took immediate action to extract the victim from the wreckage. Upon determining the motorist was not breathing and no detectable pulse, he promptly initiated CPR. Deputy Beck continued performing CPR for approximately 10 minutes, demonstrating remarkable composure, endurance, and commitment under high-stress conditions. His decisive actions and sustained life-saving efforts were critical in maintaining circulation and oxygenation until paramedics arrived on scene and assumed patient care. Deputy Beck's conduct exemplifies the highest standards of professionalism, courage, and dedication to duty. By rendering immediate and effective medical aid, He distinguished himself through his unwavering commitment to the preservation of human life. His actions reflect great credit upon himself, the Lyon County Sheriff's Office, and the law enforcement profession as a whole. This was recommended by Sergeant Gabriel Santos and says, "It is without reservation that I recommend Deputy Beck for the life-saving award." I also want to point out that I received several text messages from community members in Dayton that were on scene. Mr. Phil Cooey texted me and said that he wanted to commend Deputy Beck for his actions. He was present on scene. It was his building that was hit by the car. And he said he watched the whole thing, and Deputy Beck remained professional and focused the entire time. So I thought that was important to point out as well. So no further delay, I'd like to present Deputy Beck the Lyon County Sheriff's Office Life Saving Award.
I like those stories.
Okay, we're gonna start with you. You bring it back for commissioner comments. Commissioner Hockaday.
Yes, our deputies are out there taking care of the community. Appreciate the efforts that they make constantly to take care of everybody that is out there. In particular when problems occur like this and they jump into action and save lives.
Commissioner Castanelli.
Yeah, just echoing Commissioner Hockaday, great job. See these guys in the field and they're doing good work and don't always get the accolades that they deserve. So, but thank you very much.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Yeah, we've done a lot of these awards because our sheriff's office staff has done such an amazing job and they have such a great presence here now, and really grateful for all they do.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you. Just was to on the quick response to calls and to be able to save this life is really remarkable. So my hat's off to all our men and women that are protecting us daily.
Thank you. And I'll just follow up with my fellow commissioners that I have to agree with everything you just said. And I'm glad that they come before us and at least, you know, we get to have that recognition for them. So thank you very much to the Sheriff's Department. Moving on to number 7, time certain at 9:00 a.m. Presentation only, presentation on Child Abuse Prevention Month. Human Services Director Shayla Holmes.
Good morning, Dr. Shayla Holmes, Director, Lyon County Human Services. For the record, I want to take a minute and say thank you for giving the time to recognize Child Abuse Prevention Month. We are here every April to talk about this very critical topic. If there's not anything more important in our county, it's our youth, and it's protecting them and ensuring that we are creating environments that allow them to grow up and thrive and contribute back to us. And child abuse prevention is one of the #1 ways we get to do that. So during April, public and private agencies, community organizations, volunteers, and concerned citizens unite to highlight the problem of child abuse and to educate the public in methods of prevention. It's not any one organization responsibility. It is the entire community's responsibility to come together and ensure that we're creating the environments we want for our youth. Next slide, please. Normally, I put together some graphs for you guys as far as what the trend line looks like for the data here in Lyon County as far as the reports to the Division of Child and Family Services. Quick reminder, The Division of Child and Family Services through the state is who does the child abuse response. So they take the referrals, they take the calls, they identify either the need for differential response, which is done through your Lyon County Human Services Department, or for an investigation, and then they identify whether it's substantiated or not, and they do all those the removals, all those actions. Washoe and Clark, per NRS, are required to do that for themselves. The state does it for the rural remainder, and we're a part of that, the other 15 counties. The state, within the last year or so, has put together this really cool dashboard. So I'd encourage you in your free time, because I know you have a lot of it. You can go on and click around on here and you can see the different allegations. You can select the different types of reports. You can move the time frames. Each of those big old bars there is a month. And then you got 12 of them for each of the years. And so you can go back to 2018 and see where we're at currently and look at the number of reports that have come in, the number that have been substantiated, unsubstantiated, and for what reasons. What I want to kind of highlight here is our numbers seem to be closer now to our 2020 numbers, which we saw a big dip in 2019, 2020. You guys may or may not remember that pandemic we had, and that really caused a dip in referrals. People weren't calling, kids weren't in schools, we didn't have our eyes on them. So we do believe that dip was because of lack of engagement with the youth in those formal settings. So now maybe some of our efforts are actually showing an effect. We had this big spike when they all came back, and now we're taking a little taper back down. I remember a few years ago at a pinwheel planting event, which will be taking place tomorrow. You guys will hear about that in a few. I had a reporter ask me, you know, what's the average? What's a good number to have when you're looking at data like this? And I was like, man, I don't know. That's a really great question. And the only thing I could think of is none. There's never a point in time where any bars on these graphs is going to be okay. And so as long as we have one child that's being abused in Lyon County, we need to keep doing more. And so I think while it's great to see that we're making a slide down, we've got to keep working because those bars are still way too high because they're on there. Next slide, please. What we talk about when we talk about child abuse prevention, we always talk about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. This came out, I want to say, in the 70s from Kaiser Permanente. It's some of the most extensive research that's been done on a variety of different topics because they were able to correlate adverse childhood experiences to all of the wicked problems we face and why human services or social services even exist. For every ACE you have, as they compound, equals negative effects as adults. It equals higher rates of unemployment, equals higher rates of substance misuse, equals alcoholism, equals chronic disease. So even if you're able to course correct and not have anything going on with your mental health or substance misuse, you are also more at risk for having issues with chronic diseases. So it's really important that we continue this work. But also, I think more importantly, if you want to go to the next slide, please, is the research that's being done on positive childhood experiences. So if we know ACEs cause all of these negative outcomes on the end, and we're working our hardest to get those bar graphs down to 0, what we know is that having one solid adult in a youth's life can totally shift any of those ACEs that they've experienced. So it's really important that we have community partners. That we've got some in the room today. We've got Boys and Girls Club. We've got other community partners we've been bringing out, like Big Brothers Big Sisters. We've got a lot of other folks that dedicate their entire organization and time to making sure that youth in our communities have really great role models and people that care. And that is enough to reverse those outcomes of ACEs. So while we are working to get to 0 on that abuse and neglect, we also can be working to just increase the positive opportunities that youth have to counteract some of those negative outcomes. With that, I want to invite up Jenna Dykes. She's our Children's Services Division Manager, and she's going to talk to you about what we do at Human Services.
Good morning. I am Jenna Dykes, the Division Manager of Children's Services for Lyon County Human Services. So here on your screen, you will see on the left a list of everything my division does all throughout Lyon County all year long. But what I would really like to point out are the pictures on the right of the staff who do this work every day. They show up totally ready to face anything. We kind of joke that you plan for your day, and then as soon as you get to the office, everything changes and shifts, and they are always so willing to do whatever they need to do for the families they work with and the families they see every day, and it's actually incredible. So a huge shout out to the staff there. And now on the left, or we can go back to that real quick, sorry. One of my favorite parts about children's services is that we are completely rooted in prevention. All of these services are to prevent families from being involved in the DCF system or in the juvenile justice system. We work every day to try to get these folks out of a job. That is our goal. We try really hard. It's not working, but we're still trying. So the programs you see there, WIC is a supplemental nutrition program and a breastfeeding education program. They work with families who have children prenatal to age 5. Cribs for Kids provides safe spaces for kiddos to sleep under 2 years old. It's really exciting that it's under 2 because for a long time it was under a year, but they extended that. So anyone with a child under 2 can get a safe space for that baby to sleep. We provide car seats to the community and education on the installation of a car seat. If a family doesn't have one, or their car seat is expired, or their child has outgrown their seat, we're able to provide them a new one, and that kiddo can ride off in the car as safe as possible. We have parenting classes that cover families with children 0 to age 17, which is really awesome. And it's evidence-based. And then we also have the Parent Projects, which works with families who have teens who are a little trickier and experiencing those risky behaviors, which is actually in our intervention piece. Our home visiting works with families also prenatal to age 5. And they're really focused on development-centered parenting. We want these parents to be able to parent their child for their development and maybe not just their age, because sometimes those don't equal the same. They focus also on catching possible developmental delays as early as possible, so we can either focus on that area and enhance it for the child or refer them to services to really focus on it that might be out of our scope of work, like Nevada Early Intervention Services. Parent Project we talked about. Differential response is a collaboration with DCFS. These are calls that come into DCFS but don't hit that level of them needing to go out and do an investigation, no removals or anything like that. But the families could benefit from resources and case management. So we go in and we work with the family to, again, avoid the DCFS system. Family support is very similar, but we can receive referrals from anyone. You could refer a family in, the family could refer themselves in, schools, JPO, we do get some from DCFS, and they just need a little help with whatever it is. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. This is our wonderful behavioral health services team. They have partnered with Children's Services tremendously in the last couple of years. The C3 program and some mobile crisis unit, they are just completely amazing. They're going out to schools, they're doing so much amazing things. They're doing that trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. The Lyon County Resilient Families is working with families in that transitional youth age who might be at high risk or already have substances in the home, and we're just trying to prevent more substance use. And then those are some instruments and assessments that they are doing on the daily. On the next slide, I am going to send it over to Candy with DCFS.
Hi, Candy Mortensen, manager with the Division of Child and Family Services for Lyon County and Mineral County. We are the front line for child protective services for Lyon County. We have eight social workers when we're staffed that do child abuse and neglect investigations, and also work with families on the back end, which would be permanency unit, trying to reunify families of kids that may have been placed into foster care. Our job is to protect children from harm or risk of harm and make it safe for children to live with their parent or caregivers. Over the years, what I've found is if we can make a family's dysfunction function, that's where the best place is for a child. Sometimes we have stakeholders or different people that don't think that that's the best thing and they want to know why the child hasn't been removed, but over the years, I've been doing this 29 years and I have found that if we can keep the child with their family, even with their parents, and put the services in, it's in everybody's best interest, especially the children. We do everything from emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, which could be lack of supervision, educational neglect, filthy homes. We do work closely in conjunction with the Lyon County SROs and also the deputies with Lyon County who are integral with assisting workers when we're out in the field. Next one, please. So we have all the different parts. We have intake, which we have a central intake unit, which we've had for the last 4 years in Carson City, which is strictly to take rural reports for all 15 rural counties. That is really nice because everybody has a central location to make those reports. We have the assessment unit, which used to be investigations, which is the boots on the ground, going out on the reports. Ongoing is the permanency unit, putting families back together or maintaining families. And then we also have foster care licensing and recruitment, which, I always tout the foster homes or lack thereof in rural Nevada. Our licensing unit out of Carson is really doing a bang up job and trying to get a lot more homes. We're still short, but I think that unfortunately is just going to be forever. We do have what used to be the Comfort House, which has switched directors, and the lady who is running it now was a former foster child who was out of Fallon, actually out of Silver Springs to begin with, and then adopted out of Fallon. And her husband have taken over that along with his parents are running the home in Silver Springs, which is licensed for 6 youth. They are full, but we are really hopeful that with some of the backers that they have right now, that they are looking to possibly expand that concept of the homes, and it would be in Lyon County. So I was at a child abuse conference in Huntsville with some money people, I guess you should say, who have a really strong passion to bring that kind of family foster type of care unit into more homes into Lyon County. Next. So I guess I sort of jumped ahead, but like I said, we really work hard to keep children with relatives or with fictive kin. On any given occasion, we may have a teacher that becomes licensed for a child so they don't have to leave their school and their community. We have family friends that step in. Just anybody to keep that child from having to relocate. When we do have to relocate, especially if it's towards the end of the year, we've worked really hard with Lyon County School District to try and keep that child in their school if we can, whether that's them transporting and us transporting and trying to make that work. Sometimes we're not able to do that, especially if it's at the beginning of a school year, because that's a lot from both agencies to transport a child depending on where they're placed. But if anybody would like to be a foster parent, we always have trainings. They're actually online now. They're a lot more frequent and able to be accessed with working people instead of having to give up a whole weekend like it used to be, where you'd have to find daycare for your kids and then go in and do it in person. Everything. The only thing I think was about the pandemic that was a bonus was some of the online things we're able to do now that we weren't able to do. And I'll turn it over.
Morning again, Lyon County Sheriff Brad Pope, for the record. What you see there is our statistics on arrest with child abuse, and what that shows is a change in mindset in the Lyon County Sheriff's Office. We went from a hands-off approach, giving the officers discretion on arrest, to a very aggressive law enforcement agency, and that includes child abuse and endangerment arrests. You can see the increase there. Our deputies are actually happy that we took the officer discretion away on it. Because it bugs them whether they should have made an arrest or not. If we find one piece of probable cause, the parents or the adult in the matter are going to jail. See, domestic battery arrests have gone up dramatically. It's a mandatory arrest. But at the same time, our guys are real aggressive with it. The smallest amount of probable cause, a person goes to jail. I believe that that's our end of the bargain with the sheriff's office. The DA has their end of the bargain, the court system has their end of the bargain, and we're going to do the best we can to meet that. On the right, excuse me, it's in small writing, but our major crimes division, the majority of their cases are child abuse, child sexual assault, elderly assault, elder abuse. They're constantly inundated with those cases. So it is a big problem in Lyon County. Sheriff's Office is committed to handling it aggressively and making sure we hold up our end of the bargain on that. We do appreciate our relationships with CPS, with Human Services, all of the counseling groups. We had a partnership with the Comfort House for a little bit. Now that it's switched directors, hopefully we could rebuild that and just continue to work for the community.
Good morning, Steve Rye, District Attorney. We come in, the DA's office comes in after the case has already started and we handle the court portion of it. And I just want to point out this year, there's been a number of successes. You've heard from the other agencies, but we've been able to have successful prosecutions on some very serious child abuse cases. Hats off to the Sheriff's Office, DCFS, the other agencies that are involved in that. And we're very pleased. It's good for the victims. It's good for the community. On the DCFS side, we've also seen a little bit of a change, as Candy mentioned. Trying to keep children in the home is the best way to go. And so in the last year or two, we have seen fewer removals, which I think is great for the families, good for the kids. We've also seen, with the hard work from CASA and DCFS, a number of reunifications this year, which is bringing the children back into the family. Adoptions, which is a permanent placement for those children that have had a very rough time. And then also, we have avoided a number of cases, thanks to their work, where the children have not been had to be removed, but they can be placed with a family member. So all those developments are very positive. There's a lot of great work going on in Lyon County by the agencies that you've heard from today. My hat's off to the Sheriff's Office and the attorneys and staff in my office. A lot of these cases that they work on take an emotional toll on the deputies, the detectives, and the attorneys, because they are very concerning facts and difficult cases to work on. So hats off to the people that do the hard work every day, day in and day out. And we're fortunate in Lyon County to have a successful operation. Thank you. Any questions?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mary Smith. I'm the Director for Court Appointed Special Advocates for Lyon County. What we are is we're a 501c3 that recruits and trains community volunteers to advocate for the kiddos that have been taken from their homes and put in foster care. We are also now being assigned to some cases involving some juvenile delinquency to try and prevent removal, to try and encourage the family involvement to get these youth through the juvenile system, the juvenile justice system, as fast and as smoothly as possible with parental involvement. So like I said, what we do is we recruit and train community volunteers. It's you don't have to have a college degree. You don't have to do any of that. It's just somebody that has a heart to be able to advocate for these kids. And when we get them recruited and trained, we assign them to a case after we've been appointed. And what we do is this volunteer, with the help of myself and Anna Meza, my case coordinator, we go out, we help them investigate, gather information, and these people build a positive relationship with the kiddos, their current placement, their bio parents, or whoever their caregiver was, the schools, the therapists. We are their one consistent throughout the case, because a lot of times, like Candy said, if she's fully staffed, which poor Candy is often not, there's a lot of transition and people changing in these kids' lives. We are that one constant. We are the one that shows up every month at a minimum, takes them for ice cream, takes them for fun. We're not a punitive person. We are not just a social worker, another agency. We are kind of the positive development in their life. And then we go and we make reports to the third judicial district court on behalf of the best interest, what we feel is the best interest of the children. We have a great working relationship with all of these other agencies, the Sheriff's Department, the DA's office, DCFS, Human Services. We work beautifully with all of these folks. This is what my volunteers did in 2025. The numbers were down again, like both Candy and Steve had said. The kids that were removed from home, that's why we've been able to take on some juvenile delinquency cases as well. We currently, we swore in 5 new volunteers last year. That's the biggest recruitment year that we've ever had. So that is a huge thing. We're out in the community a lot. We do a lot of the community events. Many folks don't know that our program exists. And then they want to become involved. They want to have some more information. When Kids with CASAs, we serve as guardian ad litem. They're more likely to find a safe and permanent home because they do have that additional person that's out there gathering information, reporting to the court, finding people, building positive relationships. They're more likely to succeed in school. A lot of these kids have struggles in school and their performance, and we're there to kind of be a support and be a lending hand. I always call them, anybody familiar with boxing, we're their corner man. We're there when things get tough to kind of hype them up, put them back in, get them back in the fight and get them moving in a permanent positive direction. And they're half as likely to re-enter the foster care system as adults or even as children, but have their children re-enter the foster care system. So that's what we do. We thank you guys. Jenna Dykes again. So here you can see some pictures of the community efforts that we are doing around Lyon County. Tomorrow we have our pinwheel plantings. It's nationally on the first Friday of the month. I know you guys are very busy tomorrow. So if you can't make it, we understand. But we will be in each location throughout the county. And this year we are trying to stagger it so staff can make more than one. In years past, we did them all at 10 a.m., which was fine, but you could only go to one. We have a couple in the morning, we have a couple in the afternoon. We've partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Truckee Meadows and Mason Valley to have a lot of kiddos there, which is really exciting. We are also doing pinwheel coloring contests. We already have over 100 submissions, again, because we partnered with the Boys and Girls Clubs and they made pinwheels for our displays this year. So you'll see bouquets all throughout the community. I know there's at least 5 in this building that you'll have to keep an eye out for. And there's homemade pinwheels from kiddos in the Boys and Girls Club, which is really exciting. We've never done that before. We do lots of stuff on social media. We'll have bookmarks in the libraries, and we can't do any of this stuff without all the agencies in this room, all the agencies in our county. We love to do this presentation with these other agencies to show how strong of a network Lyon County has. I'm sure you've gone to other counties and they don't agencies and that don't communicate like we do. Like we might be limited in our resources, but what we do have, people really fight for families and children in Lyon County, and it is just completely incredible to see. Then there might be a thank you. And if you have any questions, we're here to answer.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, thank you, Jenna. This is for whoever, and maybe I'm way out maybe I'm way out of line, but it seems like I'm seeing more and more kids working to help pay bills, and thus keeping them from participating in youth activities, which they should be doing. A lot more seem to be the daycare provider for their siblings and keeping them out of activities that they should be doing or participating in. Is that something that you're seeing, or am I off base there?
I can't say that we have Shayla Holmes, for the record. I can't say that we have any data to support that. I think anecdotally, that is something that we're seeing, particularly when the economy is getting tougher for those lower income families. What we have seen as a department is decrease in funding coming in to be able to support rent, utilities, and those other components necessary for life, which lead to families getting creative and utilizing resources that are available to them, which might be older siblings caring for younger siblings. What we do know is when we're in partnership with a family, working with them, this connected group of folks, we have some really great partners like Boys and Girls Club. While they have a fee, they'll waive that fee for families that can't afford it. They'll never turn a family away. And so if we're in connection with them, we can make sure that they're advocating and getting connected to those services. A lot of times the issue is getting those families in for service to be able to make those connections, to be able to ensure that these other things are managed so they don't have to handle it as a singular unit. So I mean, my best advice there would be, if you know of a family that's experiencing those types of struggles, please encourage them to reach out. It's not a negative thing. We're able to work with them in a really positive way through our family support program and get them connected. We also set aside some dollars to be able to help offset the cost of youth activities. So we are able to help, pay for. Football is really expensive. Baseball can be really expensive, and we have some dollars set aside to be able to help with any of those activities that youth can get connected to as well.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that presented. That was very informational. Appreciate your time and all you do for our kids.
They're
Commission-
amazing, yeah.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Clear that it's whole effort by a lot of different groups, and the fact that you guys communicate the way you do, really getting great results, and we appreciate all of them.
Commissioner Casanelli.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to echo that, thank you to everybody, all the good work you're doing. I was curious on one of the first slides you had that showed the year to year. It didn't have the months on there. I'm just curious. It looked like there's a trend. Is there a particular time of year where you see abuse cases spike? It looked like that was what the graph indicated, and I'm just curious what months those may be.
So typically reports dip during the summer months. Our school districts and are our biggest partner when it comes to making referrals, because they have eyes on those kiddos every single day. They know their baseline and they can see when something's off. So summer months, you do typically tend to see things drop. Same with like our youth crisis response. August hits and we lull June hits, we lull, July, August, September comes back, then we start to pick up. And so you start to see it peak once we get mid school season, and then we start to see a decline again.
Thank you. Commissioner Hockaday.
Yeah, just a thank you to all the agencies. This is a tough issue, and we are definitely thankful that all of you people are doing a great job looking into these situations and dealing with them effectively as best you can.
Thank you. Going back to what Commissioner Casanelli said, so when those bars are down is probably when we should be more aware of the endangerment of those children, because there's no eyes on them and that kind of thing. So you kind of have to pay attention during the summer months for everybody.
Yeah, community members can do a lot, and community members can call and make those reports. They're taken just as seriously as the school district or anyone else. So if you see your neighborhood kiddo in need, absolutely, you can call. If you go to the state website, they have a rural number dedicated. It's an 888 number, so you can give them a call.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to 7B. Time certain at 9:00 a.m. for presentation only. Presentation from Travis Crowder, Chief Executive Officer, Nick Beaton, Director of Development of the Boys and Girls Club of Mason Valley, providing project updates for the Silver Springs area and the Dayton Early Learning Center. Almost said learning.
Good morning, everybody. Before we dive in, I do want to give Shayla and everybody that was here a huge shout out. We partner with Lyon County Human Services quite a bit throughout the year. You guys saw some of the photos from our pinwheel activities that we have, and all of those pinwheel bouquets that are up. We're a regular partner with them on those car seat checks that they do at our early learning centers, making sure that those kids are buckled in properly. And then I cannot say enough good things about that C3 Youth Mobile Crisis Response Team. Our club was struck by a tragedy last July and then again this past January. And I don't know if we would have been able to get our kiddos through it without them. So
I think our staff too,
Yeah.
honestly.
and still getting check-in text from them on how everybody's doing. So just wanted to give them a gigantic shout out for all the amazing work they do before we dive in. Our presentation today mainly focuses on some updating in Silver Springs, and I know that we're down here on the agenda for Dayton as well. So I'll let Travis give an update on where we are with our Dayton Early Learning Center today.
Very excited. I think anybody who's driven by, you can kind of see the progress. It was nice to see it actually going vertical. But yeah, we're doing quite well. The building's coming on. For those of you that don't know, it is exactly that, an early learning center that we desperately need in the Dayton community. We're set to open in about August, September is when everything should be done from a construction standpoint. It is currently sized for a little over 60 kiddos from infants all the way to pre-K. And then, of course, we'll just move them right over to the boys and girls club. It'll be set. We'll have them forever. But it is very exciting. So anytime that you're in that Dayton community and happen to be driving by, you know, you're definitely seeing some progress right now. We're right there across the street from that Maverick for a reference point. And very excited, very grateful. And and we're already more than halfway through the enrollment piece in terms of people are already calling, reserving spots. So I'm very confident, much like we dealt with here in Yerington, that by the time we open, it'll be full.
So yeah, here today to give us some exciting updates on Silver Springs. So our tagline right now is rural Nevada needs club kids. And I understand that we're a little bit biased on that, but we do have some data on why that is the case. 80% of our club kids are getting mostly A's and B's. And when we say mostly, that's very, very, very few C's. 90% of club kids nationwide get a better GPA than their peers that aren't attending the club at least 3 days a week. A lot of that has to do with the educational supports that we have in place. Our kids are getting an hour of what we call power up every single day, which is focused on reading, math, writing, and science development, whether through play or actual direct homework tutoring. Statistically speaking, most risky youth behaviors occur between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. School is out, their parents are still at work. That is the prime time for kids to be wandering the streets at home by themselves, potentially with a grandparent who might not be fully equipped to keep a super close eye on them. But 3 to 6 p.m. is the window that we serve our kids. Club kids build more leadership skills. Leadership and service is one of our 5 key areas. We have our Torch Club for our younger members to start giving back to their club, and our Keystone Club for our older members to start giving back to their community. And last but not least, club kids are more emotionally intelligent and mature. We've had a really big focus on this with our clubs over the last 2 years. We do a giant survey every year called the National Youth Outcome Initiative. And what our kids were telling us year after year was, we feel a lot of emotions, we don't know what the heck they are, and we definitely don't know how to deal with them in a positive manner. And so we instituted a lot of programming to correct that. And we have seen those scores actually skyrocket into the positive aspect, and our kids are doing a much better job on that.
Exhibit A on that in terms of the club leadership skills. Nick was a club kid, so this is perfect example of what can happen right here. Our history, Silver Springs. Next slide. So many of you know, but just in case, in particular with this area, we started serving families in 2009. That, as many of you know, some of you don't, that was a direct result of Lyon County at the time coming to us asking to if we can step up and help out in the communities of Springs and Dayton, simply because we were having some budgetary issues, and we've been there ever since. Currently, and over the years, we've been fortunate enough at different times to be able to have the entire time we've had an amazing relationship with the Lyon County School District to be able to get and occupy the buildings and the space that we currently have. But over the years, as we know, populations do come and go and change. And at one point in time, we used to have quite a bit of space, an entire wing, if you will, there at Silver Springs. And of course, with enrollment numbers and what have you, things change. And we have been for that reason, moved to and having to utilize a multi-purpose room, which works, and we are grateful for it. But in the same token, when you're getting the multitude of kiddos that we have in these at that site into one room with various ages, that can be a very difficult scenario to play out. And although we're grateful, it does create some challenges. You see it here. We've got 200 active members, 200 actual kiddos that off and on are coming to the club site there in Silver Springs daily. The average daily attendance being 85 kids. Again, 85 kids ranging from kindergartners to teenagers in one room. I can barely handle my grandkids in one room, so that's a tough one. 2 full-time and 3 part-time staff are currently what we have employed. We have, you heard Nick's focus on the programs. The programs we take great pride on are happening daily. And yes, we love the stat in terms of our surveys that we do with our kiddos and families, that 92% of the club kids love coming to the club every day. That being said, it goes without saying, we've outgrown it. We've outgrown it for a very, very, very long time. And so with that being the case, and you're going to hear a little bit more about it, it's time to make a change there and to try to fix that. And we have something to share with you.
So what do you do when you're out of space? You build more space. And so we're super, super excited to announce today, I think it went out on our social media about 10 minutes ago, that we are going to build a brand new both Boys and Girls Club clubhouse and early learning center in the Silver Springs community. Several years ago, with some good forethought and some help of some friends of the club up there in Silver Springs, we purchased 4 acres of land directly adjacent to the elementary, middle, and high school right there. We're super fortunate that the only community that we actually have to do transporting it is in Dayton, and it is a headache. And so the fact that we were able to claim this land when we did is what is going to lead us to this amazing facility today. We can take a look at the outside there. So it's going to be a metal structured building, but not in the type that you guys normally see. As our architect put it when we were going over these drawings, he said, I did everything I could to make this not look like a barn for children. And he's done a really, really, really good job with that design. Nice vaulted ceilings, high windows, and plenty of space. Speaking of space, we are going to utilize the room that we have to the best of our ability. Because what the building we're looking at right now is likely to cost about $7 million. So how can we keep our costs lower so we can pull this off in an amazing way? On the left side of your screen, that's our traditional clubhouse. So that will serve our kindergartners through high schoolers. There's almost 1,400 square feet of dedicated space just for our teenage members. One of the biggest things the Boys and Girls Club can do to keep teen members coming is give them their own space away from the little kids. And so that's what this building does. There's 2 program rooms on the bottom there that are going to be set up to more of a classroom style. You've got your large rec room, which Michaela, our site director, is here. I'm sure is thrilled to have the loudest room in the building right there in the middle. And then a cafeteria connected to our commercial kitchen, talking about sharing things to keep reduced cost. That commercial kitchen will open to both sides of the building to share it with what is on the right side, an early learning center. This ELC has a room for infants, a full room for toddlers, and a full room for preschoolers. The capacity is going to be just right around 50 kids for our licensed childcare piece over there. It will be the first fully built out licensed childcare facility of its kind in the Silver Spring Stagecoach area. And then right there in the middle, you've got restrooms, IT rooms, fire riser rooms. Outside to the left, we're planning on doing a full shade structure seating area with a half court for basketball. Again, because of our proximity to the school, very fortunate that we'll be able to continue to use their big turf field and their playground out there to help keep our costs low. And down into the bottom right will be where our ELC playgrounds are, one for the younger kids and then one for the preschoolers.
Building together, right? Here's the thing too, and we probably should have noted it might even be in here. Like we are doing in Dayton is the same game plan in Springs in terms of very much so forward thinking in phases. You know, when we're talking our Boys and Girls Club sites, we're talking early learning centers. We've got eyes on gymnasiums. We've got eyes on playgrounds. At the end of the day, these facilities and these areas will be all encompassing so that when the kiddos do arrive there, you know, and they're on site, excuse me, we'll be able to address many multiple ages and multiple needs in the community, especially with the partnerships that we have. Aggressive timeline. We can't use that word enough. It is an aggressive timeline. And so here's the deal. And we are currently been on this. Some of you know we've been in front of you for other boards and what have you that you're on. But yes, we've got architects in gear. We've got, as you noted, some plans that you've already seen. We did learn very quickly. We're learning a lot about water, probably more than I wanted to know, but we're learning a lot about water. And in this particular scenario, we had to get in front of the Silver Springs, help me out. I knew you'd know, Scott. And so they just annexed, or we're in the process of annexing us in, because we just happen to be on the other side of that, of course. You know, so that we can have water. The initial funding, and we say initial funding because we know that It's gonna be at least 6. It's probably gonna be closer to 7, 7.5 when we're including all of our operational and staffing and all the other pieces that come into play, which is quite a lot, of course, but as we get to it, we're gonna talk about some funding commitments and why the timeline is what it is for us. We've got, applications in terms of permitting and all these pieces that need to come into play that I don't need to go into detail with. I will tell you this much. The funder in particular that we're working with has made it very clear that, listen, we want to support this project, right? But in the same token, in order to receive this funding, one of the pieces that was part of the caveat is we have to turn over dirt this year. Project doesn't have to be done this year, but it definitely needs to be started this year. So that is why everything that you see here in specifics is things that we'll be back in front and really hope with you folks and others, of course, to work with us so that we can make this happen. So how does that work for us? Again, the investment, when we're talking the investment, this is we can't mention my name right now, but I will tell you this much. We've got 2 in particular that are at the table, totaling $6 million already. That want to invest and want to support us. And it should be noted that we have been at this for quite some time, trying to get out there in Silver Springs. That property alone is what the Boys and Girls Club purchased years ago to try to get things moving. These particular foundations that we're working with have been very supportive of our Boys and Girls Club efforts all throughout Lyon County. And they're the ones who came back to us, recognizing the fact that Silver Springs desperately needs this. We've known that, and they're willing to step up and help us do so. It is our estimation that we truly believe by the time we're done with this and playground equipment and the whole 9 yards that goes with these type of projects and our staffing, that we're going to land somewhere closer between 7 and 7.5 when this is all said and done. I do want to go on record that the particular foundations that are looking at or that are committing to us on this have been doing so for almost every part of Lyon County in multitude of projects, not just the Boys and Girls Club. And all just simple math that we know internally, these particular foundations, it's far surpassed 20 million now in terms of investments in our community that aren't even from Lyon County. And so with that being the case, we're trying to strengthen our request. We're trying to strengthen our whole piece to them by trying to reiterate to them that in every way possible, we are going to do our due diligence to get in front of whatever entity we need to work with, whatever partnership we need to work with, in hopes that we can also come to the table, whether that in the county's case can help us with expediting timelines, whether that's us coming back in front of you for waiving of connection fees and permittings and things of that nature that can show some commitment from the county to match the efforts that are in the tunes of millions from these folks to benefit our kids and families here. So I guess if nothing else, you'll probably see us again. These supporters and this project, I do want to say this. One requirement of the LEAD Foundation has been for years that you got to go out and try to, and this is what we've been tasked with many of our projects, go out and secure half of that funding from somebody else. For them to step back and now say, we're going to go ahead and potentially change that for you because we realize the fact that you had quite the challenge getting that kind of support from the area of Silver Springs, which we all know naturally is hard. That's going to be a challenge. And some of that growth is behind a little bit in terms of where our needs are today. So that all being said, we are very excited. We are thrilled that we finally got a partner that is willing to step up, a couple of partners, honestly, significantly for us to be able to make this happen. But in order to meet these timelines and to meet this scenario, we are absolutely sprinting. And I guess if nothing else, we're hoping that baton can be shared where possible along the way so that we can meet these deliverables and have something amazing for our kids and families in Silver Springs.
And with that, we will happily answer any questions you guys might have for us.
Go ahead and spell on the right.
Yeah, outstanding briefing. Just want to say that I've bounced around the country. Military sent me to a lot of rural areas, but I am just amazed at the Boys and Girls Club in our region. You guys do a fantastic job. I hope we can help you out wherever we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gassinelli.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And I know from working with you guys in the past, I mean, what a significant project that this is and to have that support to be able to do the early learning center and the clubhouse in one shot is, it's a one-time deal probably. So it is, I just wanted to acknowledge the significance of that and, hope we can move mountains and get it done. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hendricks.
I don't know how you guys get done, everything that you get done, but I'm grateful that you do.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Two things. I do want to say hi to Michaela. This young lady was, I believe, in middle school in Silver Springs, and I believe when it opened, I believe you were working there to help out. Not from the start. It had to be close, though.
Longer than that.
Okay. At any rate, it is so wonderful to see you. How's your brother doing? Tell him I said hi.
Works there too, by the way.
All right, I had to say that because you always brighten my day. I agree. I think the county needs to push this through whenever we get something. This isn't for a private entity. This isn't for like we're doing favors for one company over another. This is something for the public that's going to save our taxpayers over $6 million. So I just want to stress that hopefully you have my number. Run into roadblocks, give me a call. We cannot get in the way. And I'm not going to speak for my colleagues, but I'm not going to get in the way of anything that if I can help out, let me know. I want to also thank you for your generous donation to the Freeman Boys and Girls Club. I'm kind of jumping all over here. I was actually the principal at Silver State Middle School when you started down there, and right away it was a packed house. So to see what you guys have grown it to and where you're taking it is really unbelievable. Your planning and construction materials are absolutely brilliant. Too many times people worry about how it looks on the outside as opposed to what's happening on the inside. And to keep the price down and to get everything you've got going is beyond brilliant. It's kids don't care what it looks like on the outside. They just want someplace to go that's safe and fun and educational. So whether it looks like a barn or not, it looks great. But too often times we got to have cement and Taj Mahal looking structures going up. So I commend you on your choice of building materials and doing what it takes to get this done. And then finally, Travis, I understand your grandpa twice over here recently, so congratulations on that.
Yeah.
I think it's 10th and 11th time over now.
My hat's off and just unbelievable.
Thank you. I do want to give on the planning, definitely want to make sure that we give Eric Anderson at Bighorn Consulting a big shout out. He's our project manager and engineer for just about everything we do. And then also Darren Harbinger at Harbinger Associates being our architect. Like I said, he's the one that did everything he could to make it not look like a barn and get the inside laid out really nice for us.
One other piece, because I know it's important to all of you, I know as much as it is to us. 2 local contractors too, by the way. The contractor's building in Dayton on Miles Construction, and the contractor for this particular job will be Prime West, the same people that have built our Boys and Girls Clubs and our sites here in Uriton. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and you know my support for you guys. I just wanted to keep it going. It's going to be great for Silver Springs. It's good for the community. It's not for you. It's for the community, right? And brings in development, everything else. So fantastic. Can't wait to see it go up.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we're gonna go to 7C, time certain at 9:05 a.m. for presentation only. Presentation from Lowell Patton, president of the Fernley Main Street Committee, with information about the organization, current projects, and future goals of the organization.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair and Commission. Lowell Patton, for the record, President of Main Street Fernley. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Main Street America, what I call the mothership. The reason that I think that this organization becomes so successful locally is because there's a lot of infrastructure and training available to the local groups from the mothership. So if I could have the next slide. So Main Street America's vision is to lead a movement committed to strengthening communities through preservation-based economic development in older and historic downtowns and neighborhoods, commercial districts. Next slide, please. And their history is they were established, funny enough, by the National Trust for Historic Preservation in 1980 to address the myriad of issues facing older and historic downturns during that time. So they had that National Trust, but then they formed 501c3 under that trust to start helping out local groups to kind of work towards the National Trust goal. So working with the nationwide network, they've helped over 2,000 communities. They brought economic vitality back to downtowns. They celebrate their historic character and they bring communities together. And when we go through a couple of the slides regarding economics, I'll kind of try to demonstrate how they do that. So the next slide. So a lot of reporting. It's an upside and a downside. There's a lot of reporting from the local groups to the national group. This is 1 year. So this is each year. We just turned our information in for 2025. So what's available nationally right now is only 2024 information. But that's $7.65 billion reinvested locally, resulting in 6,324 net new businesses, 34,000 net gain in jobs, just over 10,000 buildings rehabbed, and kind of one of the important parts, 1.9 million hours in volunteer hours. On average, every dollar the Main Street program spent to support their operations generates $21.73 of new investment back into the Main Street community. So I've a lot of times I've poo-pooed these kind of this data. It's like, oh, you give me $1, I'll give you $14 back. Well, that's, sometimes that's kind of like snake oil, but let's say county commission, we'll just use $1, gives $1 to Main Street Fernley. Well, what Main Street Fernley does with its volunteers is we look for a grant where, say, we only have to match 20%. So we go get a grant for 5 times that dollar. So we've already multiplied your dollar 5 times. If we can then take that grant and offer a program to, we'll say our facade program in Fernley, where we give $5,000 as long as a business or businesses match $5,000. So we take your dollar this bundle multiplied 5 times and we multiply that again by 2. So now we're at $10 for a single dollar. And we really haven't done anything yet other than take the dollar, get a grant, offer a program. I don't want to belittle that because that does take a little bit of time, but then if we can with that facade grant program encourage a local business to either build on a vacant lot or reinvest in an existing vacant building and occupy that, then the sales tax dollars or the property tax dollars that multiply from that already 10 times multiplied dollar, that's really where you start to see the impact of this program in a downtown community. So I want you to believe when they say 2173, because I poo-poo these numbers, as I've said before. that you really can get quite a bit more, but you will regularly get in that neighborhood. Next slide. So now that to Main Street Fernley locally, we use the Main Street America model, and it's comprised of what they call their 4-point program. We've added one because there's interest locally in a museum being opened in Fernley. We had a group of people that are having a tough time getting off the ground. So we brought them in as one of our committees. So we have a design committee, a promotion committee, organization committee, economic vitality committee, and the additional one is the historical committee. And I'll show you the points here. So at the heart of this is community transformation. That's where you're trying to get more people downtown. People have kind of accused us sometimes of being business centric. A lot of these programs come out of chambers of commerce. Our program happened to have come from a lot of interest from the city of Fernley in this program. So when I was president of the chamber, we applied to Main Street America, got our charter, opened our program, our sort of a partnership between the city of Fernley and a little bit to a lesser degree, the Chamber of Commerce. And I like to say we are kind of the other. We're not the city when people are complaining about standards. We're not the county when people come complain about water and this and that. We really kind of focus on what those people want, what that business needs, tracking data, where we can put a business in an existing building, where we can put a building on an existing vacant property. I think you all know the sentiment when you drive through. I just noticed a liquor store was opened over, it's been a while since I've been down here, but liquor store opened in a vacant building that used to be, I think, a grocery store of some sort. And I was like, oh, well, that's really cool because you guys you've done what we're trying to do in Fernley. You've put a business back into a vacant building because you know how it feels when you drive through a town, whether the economy is up or down. It just makes you feel a certain way when you see shuttered windows and doors. So each of these is a concept, but each of them is also a committee. So promotions committee markets the district, organization builds the leadership of the organization itself, meaning Main Street Fernley. Economic vitality builds a diverse economic base, does a lot of analytics, has a lot of data. People, we've started in Fernley to become kind of this go-to from the city. They'll send business to us that are interested. How many up and down residential, multi-use residential over commercial buildings do you have available? How many vacant lots do you have? How many shuttered buildings do you have? Where are these? Can you point us to them? That's kind of what the Economic Vitality Committee maintains. And then Design Committee, which we haven't really energized in Fernley, creates an inviting, inclusive atmosphere, celebrates historic character, fosters accessible, people-centered public spaces, but also has the ability to negotiate with the city to maybe come up with, for instance, in Gardnerville, they have slightly different development standards within their downtown corridor to promote those kind of things. Places that don't have large areas for parking need some exercise parking requirements. Otherwise, that lot is going to be vacant until the end of time. So that would just be one example. Next slide. So we were formed in 2023. We're relatively new. Some of our projects and programs, we do an annual historic downtown poker walk where we put up a foam core board showing maybe what that building that you're standing in was in 1940 and shows a little bit of the history of Fernley. We're going to start a downtown wine and poker walk series where we break we have a relatively long Main Street, break that up into 4 or 5 sections, focus on certain businesses during 3 or 4 months of the year. We had a crosswalk installed at Silver Lace across Main Street from the county admin complex to the Main Street Art Park in the hopes of alleviating some of the parking problems that NDOT has when events are held at the park. We're able to park across the street. outside of normal business hours. And I mentioned our 2026 facade grant program closes on the 15th, where we're going to grant a business or multiple businesses for a total of $5,000 for a 50-50 match to improve the front of their buildings. I'll show you a billboard a little bit later. We had a drive to it, not through it campaign where we passed out pamphlets downtown and had a billboard on Interstate 80 that identified a couple of our events, not necessarily our events, but events within Fernley. Showed exit, get off at exit 48 to enjoy this. We've dedicated a few historical plaques. Pink Cadillac was filmed at the drive-in on Main Street there that became more recently what the heck was it? It was the pink hot dog stand for a while, but we put a plaque there commemorating the filming and Clint Eastwood buying some cones for some local kids. We put a plaque at the Silver Spur in front of their front door. We've done it for 2 years, each at our 2 historic poker walks that we've had. And we've installed one set of benches downtown with a trash receptacle. We've got 6 to 7 locations. It's a little difficult we're trying to find them outside the right of way, but dealing with NDOT when we're inside the right of way. It is one of our challenges in Fernley because our main street is NDOT right of way. Next slide. So that's the billboard campaign, hard for you to read, but you can kind of see there's a few events with dates. Says exit 48, drive to it, not through it. It was a little easier to see from the highway. And then our crosswalk, we did a ribbon cutting for it there. The Lyon County admin building would be there on the right behind that lady in the red sweater. Next slide. So our current funding, we're still kind of in the early phases. Main Street America recommends that you don't do a membership-based program, so we are sort of sponsor-based. The city of Fernley annually contributes $30,000. We make about $1,500 from our poker walk. We've had a few grants over time. Our current Nevada Main Street grant is project-based, so this isn't operational money that I mentioned before of $31,500. We're exploring corporate sponsorships to match the city of Fernley's contribution. The goal for most Main Street programs is to become accredited with Main Street America. To do that, you have to have, for our city size, you have to be getting at least $30,000 from your public board. Could be the county, could be the city. But you also need to employ somebody half-time. So I'm sure you guys know during budget times, it's pretty tough to get a person half-time for $30,000 if you're, including anything additional. That accreditation comes with a sort of different level of funding access to the mothership programs. Next slide. So our 2025 impact that we just filed, that's why I mentioned the years are different. $93,000 was invested locally. We had one net new business, 3 jobs in that business, 1 building rehab because it went into a vacant building, and ours was 1,020 volunteer hours. So you can kind of see where we are. I can't do the dollar for, I don't have enough data to do what you get out of our dollar. But I showed you, you're going to get at least $10 out of our dollar and probably quite a bit more. Next slide. So I didn't come here with the intent of asking for money, but it's always appreciated. But if there's a consensus on this board that you'd be interested in working with the city, with the Main Street Fernley, then I can start talking with the county manager. One thing that we do is we like to form, we have an MOU with the city of Fernley that identifies our roles, what they expect, what we expect, what they'll give us, what we'll give them. And that is one thing that we could do with the Lyon County so that you know that your dollars are going and come report to you quarterly, those kind of things, and let you know what's happening. But other than that, I'm happy to answer questions.
You have any questions? Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. definitely like to explore how we can maybe support Main Street Fernley for sure. Also, I just want to thank if you don't know Lyon Shannon, you're not very familiar with Fernley for sure. TCID Water Master Planning Commission, Main Street, Elks Chamber, etc. You guys are very involved in Fernley, and I just want to thank you for that. And you really can see some of the changes you've made when you're driving down Main Street. It's needed some rehabilitation, and you're leading that charge. So I want to thank you all, and Shannon.
You're welcome.
I know she wears the pants in your family.
I get to wear them sometimes.
Does she pick them out?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Casanelli.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the whole Main Street concept, I mean, it's just putting on my economic development hat. It's a fantastic program. Particularly the promotion and preserving of the historical features in our different cities, and parking is a big issue with all of our Main Street programs. I know parking is a big one. What I'm intrigued with is the creativity of all of the different Main Streets that we have. We just had a presentation not long ago from the newly formed Dayton Main Street. But what works in Minden doesn't necessarily work in Fernley. And you mentioned the wine walk. I don't know if it was Eureka or Tonopah tried a wine walk and it didn't work. So they changed it to a whiskey walk. And it was, I guess, a huge event. So, but kudos, I think it's a really great program. And I think try to focus on parking because that element seems to be the biggest. I mean, you can try to get all the people there, but they got to park somewhere. And again, the historical, the facades, and all of that. I think, and the monuments. I think it's a great program. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the update, and appreciate the information. I didn't know about this, and I'm glad that you came in and gave the presentation.
Do you have anything? So I don't know, but does our room tax, do we leverage that for this group right now?
Depends on the event.
I can tell you that we do apply through City of Fernley's FCTA group, and some of the funding that we have received has come from tax money.
So that's supposed to bring people into the community. That's what it's there for. So
Sure.
we're just curious if you're already taking advantage of that on that. And thank you for your presentation. I think it's important to get our main streets all done and bringing the people.
Excellent. Thank you.
We're gonna go and take a 5-minute break. It's 10:17, so 10:23. Okay, we'll bring back the commission to order. We're on 7D times certain 9:10 a.m. for presentation only. A presentation from Reed Cousins,
Correct.
General Manager of Carson City Water Subconservancy District on the Carson River Watershed 30-year drought and water sustainability plan.
Well, thank you, everybody. I recognize it's a large agenda today, so I'll try to keep it complete, but as brief as possible. There's a lot of technical data here. If I missed something or you want more explanation, please stop me, and happy to answer questions. Or if you want to have questions that are even broader in scope, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm available for calls, emails. Heck, I'll come meet with you on the hood of your pickup if you want. So anyways, let me get started here. So today I'm going to walk through the Carson River Watershed 30-year drought and water sustainability plan. This effort looks at how water supply, demand, and management are expected to evolve over the next 30 years within the Carson River watershed and what that means for our region. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the roadmap of what we're going to be talking about today. I'll walk through a few key areas. We'll start with where the system stands today. Then we'll look at historic trends and river flows, groundwater use, and what we're seeing in terms of runoff changes in the Carson River and what the USGS modeling is telling us about the future. From there, we'll talk about how the system operates under wet and dry years, how this new term of conjunctive management is changing the rules that were previously understood, and finally, what mitigation strategies and key takeaways come out of this work. Next slide, please, Martha. So I want to stress that this work is collaborative and data-driven. This project started in 2023 with funding from the Nevada Division of Emergency Management. CWSD partnered with Loomis and Associates to analyze 9 water purveyors upstream of Lahontan Reservoir and worked with the USGS to update groundwater models for the upper and middle Carson River regions. So the upper region is primarily Alpine County and Carson Valley, the middle region being Eagle Valley and Dayton Valley, and the lower region, of course, is Carson Desert down in Churchill County. So we really want a collaborative effort to understand how the system behaves. Next slide, please. So here we're talking about regional systems and sustainability. Apologize for the small print. There's just a lot to say. It was a pretty long report here. So at a high level, the region is actually in really good shape today. And all 9 water purveyors we looked at have adequate water rights and generally good water quality to support projected growth. But that doesn't mean there aren't any challenges. Upstream in Minden and Gardnerville Rancho's GID are projected to exceed their current pumping capacity by 2051, which mean they'll need additional wells or treatment upgrades. And then a couple places, so here in Lyon County specifically, Silver Springs and Stagecoach growth is constrained not by the water rights per se, but by physical limits within the aquifer and what we'll call the perennial yield. Probably a concept many of you are familiar with of the ledger sheet approach that the state engineer uses to administer water rights. The big picture here is the system works today, but there are localized constraints that we need to be prepared for. Next slide. So this is a graph of the historic Carson River flows. Each one of those points represents the total amount of flow that came through the Carson River over time. And this graph went from 1941 through 2018. And you can see there's a wide variety of flows that we saw on the Carson River. Some very extremes in 1996. 2017 was another big year. 2021 was a very big year. But overall, what we've actually seen, if you look at the trend line here, the left graph being Carson River near Carson City, trended downwards. So overall, we're seeing the Carson River providing less water over the last 70 years or so. The graph on the right is Carson River near Fort Churchill. Again, it's kind of gone down. We've seen some big water years. Basically, it's the same plot, but just the general trend does seem to be going down, but a little more stable. It's definitely gone down since the the early 1900s. There's a little bit more data at Fort Churchill. It's an older gauge. So we've definitely seen it trending down over time. But really, if we're looking at the increased variability, and I'll get into that on the next slide. So if we want to go for the next slide, please. Again, these are the same. Sorry, these are the same looking graphs, but they're 2 different gauges. We looked at those trends going down, and why that was important was the folks at downstream were saying, "Hey, why is the water trends going down? What's going on? You know, there's water diversions upstream of both Carson City and Fort Churchill. Is that because people are taking more water?" That was the kind of the building block for this report here. So what we decided to do as Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District is we actually looked upstream of all the major diversions and said, well, what are we seeing up there? Because if those are trending down too, then it's the system is trending down, not the use is trending up in the upper river watershed. So these 2 graphs are Carson River near Woodsford in California and Alpine County. And the one on the right is the East Fork near Gardnerville. We see the similar trends up there. So this was reaffirming to us that it's not additional water use happening upstream, but that the system itself is generally trending downward. So not good news per se, but not bad news in the sense that there's some major turmoil with the water use distribution within the river network. Next slide. So this is where we start getting into some more of our charts here. We've got 3 of them here. This is watershed wide. So I want to point out this includes upper, the middle, and the lower. for the historic flows for the Carson River. The one that is the frequency plot up there where you see kind of a going up and down with the orange. What we have there in the blue line is the water years that were from 1940 to 1979. And then we have water years between 1980 and 2018. And when you look at this, you can really, it really shows it quite well that the variability, the variance in flow in the last 40 years is much more significant than the variability of flows that we saw in the from 1940 to 1979, which means that the big snow years are getting bigger, but the droughts are getting even deeper. So we're just seeing a more extremes in the river of how it's been flowing. So these results point to the same general direction, but not isolated to one particular river reach. So it's basin wide. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'll just go back to one. I didn't finish off those other two charts. I apologize for that. So when we look at the East Fork and the West Fork here, we wanted to look, the upper one is for the year. We wanted to break it down by month because this actually matters quite a bit in the overall conversation. We looked at the East Fork in the blue and the West Fork in the red. And instead of looking at it for one water year, we wanted to look at what was the flows happening for each month. And we look at the dark blue, that's 1940 to 1974. So that's that kind of more stable period. The light blue and the light red are the periods from 1980 to 2018, 1975 to 2009. A little bit different data set, but the same conclusion. That what we're seeing is the runoff is actually coming down the river earlier. It's shifting. And this is a really great year to make that point. It's very rare on the Carson River to have peak flows happen in the month of March. We saw about 2,000 CFS come through Fort Churchill during the month of March. When I drove across it this morning, I did my drive-by gauge. I didn't check the gauge, but I think it's running about 800 to 1,000. So, typically we'd like to see those peak runoffs happen later in the year. This is kind of an anomaly. But it's nonetheless kind of proves this point that the runoff trends are happening a little bit earlier. And that's just something for water users to be aware of, particularly the irrigators, because if the water is peaking in March, the plants just don't have that demand yet. Your crops don't have the demand in March that they do in July and August. So it's really shifting things a little bit. And this is kind of one of the bigger findings wanted to point out. So next slide, please. We look at groundwater pumping. We looked at a summary of 9 major water purveyors upstream of Lahontan. So we looked at Gardnerville Rancho, so all those in Douglas County. We included Carson City Water Utilities, Lyon County Utilities, Stagecoach, and Silver Springs. Several of those, of course, are in Lyon County here. And we looked at the growth. And so this isn't population growth. This is water use growth. Some of these data were provided by the county. That's why you'll see those in Douglas County being Gardnerville Ranchos, Gardnerville Water Company, Town of Minden, and Douglas County all share the same 0.5% projected growth for the next 30 years. That all came from Douglas County. Indian Hills at 0.8 to 0, and that's really because Indian Hills is somewhat constrained in their ability to develop. Carson City saw 0.7 to 0.1% water growth. The largest one, of course, here is Lyon County and Dayton for 0.8% growth, whereas Stagecoach reported 0.43, and same with Silver Springs Mutual Water Company at 0.43% water growth in the next 30 years. Next slide, please. We then looked at the groundwater pumping, and I know I'm going pretty quick here, and there's a lot of information. So if you have any reason to stop me, I'm happy to answer any questions. We linked pumping trends back to kind of future risk, and so this was important to establish what each basin, where their water is used based by manner of use, and just general what the basins look like. And it's somewhat kind of I want to say obvious, but if we look at the upper left is Carson Valley. The top line being the total water use, and then the different manners of use lower. It's really a irrigation and municipal dominated system. Some years, most of the years, irrigation is the prime user and municipal is not, but you do see some years in which the irrigation use is lower than the municipal use, and that typically corresponds with the large surface water supply. So a lot of ranchers in the Carson Valley have what are called supplemental groundwater wells, supplemental groundwater rights. Really think of them more as a backup supply, meaning if the surface water is not there, they have the ability to pump groundwater And so when you have large amounts of surface water available, you won't turn your wells on, just makes sense. But overall, we have seen an increase in the municipal demands within the Carson Valley, and the other uses were aggregated together in the blue and the yellow, and they're somewhat lower. They're within the couple thousand acre feet annually of use.
Chair Keller, I got one quick question, if I
Yeah.
may, before we get too far ahead of on the groundwater pumping, on the summary of your water purveyors and the growth percentages. Is that experienced growth or projected growth?
Projected growth.
And projected through 30 years?
2051.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so thank you, Commissioner Casanelli.
Well, you're right there. I just want, I'll catch up on a couple real quick, but you're talking about, are you on this pumping, is the domestic wells in there?
We'll get to that because one of the valleys in particular, Silver Springs and Stagecoach, it's a sub-basin within Dayton Valley, has a large amount of domestic wells, which presents a different set of circumstances, and happy to jump into that. Actually wasn't necessarily a study, but ended up right here when I was working for the state of Nevada, working with Sunset Hills and their conversion over to City of Yerington water and all the domestic wells. We could talk about domestic wells if that's an area of interest for you. I'm happy to jump into that.
Well, there's a whole bunch of it that, because you go back and forth on what you're either taking groundwater or perennial yield.
Yeah.
And there's so many factors that are going into that your presentation, but I could pull a different one. It's kind of more complicated than what we're seeing, and I understand that. But like if you look at the Churchill Basin going down, whether the water comes at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, they're still getting the water. It's still going to go into their basin. It's a terminal basin to where they can pump. Either they'll have to pump from a well or flood irrigate. It's just a type of how they would use their water, right?
Yes.
But if you just go by perennial yield in any of the areas in Nevada, all our water comes from the mountains, right? And so there isn't a county in Nevada, well, there's two, I think, that aren't in drought forever.
Yeah.
They've always been in drought.
Yeah.
So if you use perennial yield as your main thing, you'll never be able to, you're always over allocated.
Yeah, let's hold that thought, because there's a lot of transition in even the terminology of perennial yield and the plans, the future plans for the state of revisiting those in a sense with what's called the Nevada Water Initiative. And I have some slides for that. So
okay, I'll hold off and let you explain.
So in Eagle Valley, we're back to kind of the pumping, and this makes sense. Carson City doesn't see a lot of irrigation use anymore. So their overall use is clearly dominated by municipal, and it trends almost identical. So the water use in Carson City is municipal use, with the other uses being very, very small amounts. Next slide, please. So here we go into Dayton Valley. We're looking again, the orange line I'm looking at the upper left chart here. The orange line is the total pumping in Dayton Valley over time. And then municipal being the primary user within Dayton Valley, with irrigation going up and down. Again, kind of seeing that trend with the water years, the surface water supply really affecting how much irrigation demand is placed in that basin. And again, the other uses are kind of aggregated together at the bottom there. Overall, we're seeing just kind of a slight uptick, but there's been a number of ranches that have been taken out of production in Dayton. So we would expect that to overall be trending down as it converts over to municipal supply. And we look at Churchill Valley. So this starts kind of segueing into your questions, Mr. Chairman. Churchill Valley being, and I think it's interesting, Carson City is not in Carson Valley, and Churchill Valley is not in Churchill County, but you guys know that already. Anyways, Churchill Valley being Stagecoach is dominated really by domestic users. And so those are domestic wells. Now, this particular study, domestic wells are exempt from requiring a water right, but they're permitted by statute to pump up to 2 acre feet per year for domestic uses. This study used 1 acre foot per well. And that's the assumption that not each domestic well is using the full 2 acre feet. And it kind of met somewhere in the middle. And that matches pretty good with my work within Nevada about how much a domestic well on average uses. So really it was 1 acre foot per domestic wells. And there's a lot of them in Churchill Valley, which presents a different sort of administrative challenge, because water rights, all other wells require a water right to pump. And they have, by virtue of that, permit terms and authority by the state engineer, where the domestic wells do not. So, don't know what else to say here other than municipal supply has kind of been trending down. I think that's an overall trend we've seen from all of our purveyors within the last 20 years. Conservation measures are working. Tiered rate structures are working as far as driving the demand down. Other challenges come with that, reducing revenue and so you can't win for losing in this game sometimes, but that is kind of the trend. And I think that matches that the overall municipal use in Silver Springs has gone down. Irrigation is kind of, I think it peaked up a little bit in 2018 there, you can see that, but generally kind of the same. I noticed when I came in, I actually didn't take Ramsey Week's cutoff to get here. I drove through the roundabout and noticed the big field there by the airport was being irrigated. So we'll see what the next couple of years, if that big
will say something about that. That comes from the sewer plant. Well,
but that's effluent.
We got effluent that goes out to the airport.
Okay.
So
wonderful. Yeah.
So some of that isn't
Well,
a pumping thing.
good. I've talked about effluent here too. I know I'm trying to fit about a week's worth of information here into a 20-minute presentation, but I'm happy to go into some of the details here, at least my understanding of how the world works. So next slide, please. So we go about runoff changes, and so this one's important. We did look at the runoff changes, and I won't belabor this because it really just goes to the moving average that we talked about in the past. But what we did is used what's called a p-value, a statistical analysis to make sure that we were on target. And so the short answer is the slope on almost all of these gauges, all of the river stretches are trending down, with one exception, which was the West Fork of the Carson River. The East Fork of the Carson River was trending slightly upward over time. So just thought that was interesting. But I think really the meat and potatoes is on the next slide, where we kind of put it in words as opposed to graphs here. So these are the runoff changes we're seeing at different stretches of the river for different 4 months periods. So at the East Fork of the Carson River from October to March, we actually saw the flow increasing over the last 20 years. However, we saw that decrease through April and June, which matches that earlier runoff kind of finding that we noted. And same with July and September. For the West Fork and the Carson River gauge, throughout the year, the flows were decreasing. But when we get to Fort Churchill, and this was kind of back to the first point where initially prior to this study being done, it was saying, hey, where's our water going? That was kind of the question some of the downstream users may have asked. It's not a specific, I certainly don't want to frame this as being against Churchill County, but there are significant water users down there, and they said, hey, where's our water going? And it's actually, they're the bright spot. The Fort Churchill is the bright spot in this finding, that over the last 20 years, actually the flows in Fort Churchill have been increasing throughout the year. And it may have to do a little bit with the decreased irrigation within Dayton Valley. I don't know. I didn't look at this, that was just one assumption, trying to figure out why the numbers were coming out this way. So next slide, please. So again, we kind of look at the runoff changes. It's evidence, but it's not alarm. That, make sure I'm on a note sheet here. In the East Fork and the West Fork of the Carson River here, it was going down. In the Carson River near Fort Churchill was going up. So really, and at Woodford it was going down. So these charts just describe exactly what we found. And I guess the interesting point here is we did run what's called a p-value statistical analysis to make sure it was statistically significant. And so, in fact, it was. And so those very low p-values say, yes, these trends are correlated strong statistically. And then we can get into how, the statistical analysis on that. But the take-home message was this wasn't random. This wasn't because there was some major outliers within our data set that were trending things the wrong way one particular big year, one particular low year. It was overall statistically significant. So next slide, please. We asked USGS to run some models for their municipal pumping scenario. So again, this is going out to 2051, where you see kind of that heavy blue line. So it's predicated by actual pumping data. And then they went ahead and looked at what they think the model is going to do. Interesting point here, you'll notice the red circle on the left. That was actually a data error that was in the USGS model that CWSD identified. And the reason why it showed up in this presentation and wasn't corrected was when the report came out in December and January of this year, federal government was in shutdown, so there was nobody to report back to the USGS about the data error. So we just kept it there and made a note of it. And similarly, when we look at the right chart there, you'll see the orange line kind of dip down. That's because Carson City is upgrading their Quill water treatment plant, which treats water out of King and Ash Canyon creeks. When that comes online, that will reduce their groundwater pumping reliability, but that will be effectively goes to net zero, or we'll see that pumping return by 2051, meaning the growth in Carson City will both use the Quill treatment plant water and then additional groundwater supply. Make that up. That makes sense there. All right, next slide. So here are some more, these are basically the model outputs for the stream flow effects. As pumping increases, the model shows small but persistent reductions in stream flow. As it comes online, and it's important that we offset that this is offset in the near term. But overall, the take home is this: we're not seeing a dramatic collapse. We're just seeing a gradual tightening of the system, which makes sense as growth develops. Water use goes up. There's no new water rights being issued in the Carson River Basin. There may be some very small uses, but overall, it's effectively rearranging the existing water rights. And we'll get into the Alpine Decree here. Next slide, please. So the Alpine Decree, of course, is the document that governs the administration and distribution of the waters of the Carson River. It has wet, average, and dry years already baked into this. And I mention this because we're here in Yerington, which has the Walker River. Walker River was decreed in roughly the 1920s. Truckee River was decreed in the 1940s. The Alpine Decree actually wasn't ratified until the 1980s. So it's a little bit more of I call it an advanced document in the sense that maybe some lessons learned from some of the more historical decrees in the state. So they included how to operate it under wet, average, and dry years, which is a very good thing. They also broke it up into segments, and it really affects primarily irrigation users and less municipal users. However, if municipal users do have surface water supplies, they should recognize the value of those surface water rights, because when we start talking about conjunctive management, which is the next slide, explain how those will probably come into play here, even for not direct diversion for municipal use, if you want to think of it that way. Next slide, please. So this really is the policy pivot, and this was predicated on what was observed at the general decrease in flows at Fort Churchill, along with a bigger story that you may or may not have heard of in the Humboldt River Basin. So the Humboldt River Basin, of course, is very similar to the Carson River. There's very limited upstream storage. There's also a large irrigation district at the bottom of the system, Pershing County Water Users Authority. In 2014, Pershing County Water Users Authority did not receive their decreed surface water flows, and they filed a lawsuit against the state of Nevada, claiming that there was harm from upstream groundwater pumping that were affecting the flows of the Humboldt River. Effectively, the court ordered the state engineer, who issues the groundwater rights, to do something about it. We're now about 12 years since that ruling, and they're still trying to sort out what exactly that means. It's very challenging. There's a lot of high-level groundwater models coming into that. Because of that story, other basins in the state, Carson River being one of them, said, well, heck, if it's happening over there, what does that mean for us? And I have some good news in that, for the most part, the state engineer, for the most part, maybe I'll just make it clear. The state engineer has said there's no intention of operating the Carson River watershed like the Humboldt, meaning conjunctive management in retrospect. So if you have an existing well within the Carson River Basin, you're not expected to offset any impacts you have to the Carson River today. But what he does say, if you drill a new well, it's going to be evaluated for effects to the river system, if that makes sense. So groundwater pumping can come from 3 different sources. We think of it as the aquifer, but there's actually 3 different potential places that a well can obtain their water from an aquifer, from a nearby surface water source, and then there's a third and smaller one called phreatophytic ET consumption. So it's that part of the water table that's not, part of the ground that's saturated, but not part of the water table. It's what, the sagebrush might be drinking. And that can be affected by groundwater pumping too. So when you look at that, each well has a certain distribution of those components. And if your surface water capture, and that's the term that's used, from your groundwater well exceeds 10%, then that triggers some sort of mitigation effort to offset that impact to the river, in this case, the river flow, but it could be a spring or a stream or something like that too. So that's sort of the newest policy. It's not written down yet, but this is the word of mouth that's come from the state engineer's office on how the Carson River will be established or managed essentially. So what does that mean for water purveyors for Lyon County? It does mean that you have to keep that into consideration if you're planning to drill a new well. For a purveyor, it's all wells too, by the way, except for domestic wells, I imagine. I don't think they'd run that analysis on them, but irrigation wells, commercial wells, municipal wells, all of that. So talked about the litigation, and then 2017, the Nevada legislature had a legislative declaration that conjunctive management, which is now, back to your point, Chairman Keller, that ground and surface water for the last 70 years or so were managed with a bright line distinction between groundwater supply and surface water supply. But the science says that they're mixed, and so now the state is required to manage them as a single source. And so that asks the question, what happens to perennial yield? I can tell you the whole history of perennial yield, how it came into about since the advent of modern drilling techniques, the studies that the state engineer has done and the USGS went into it. But the bottom line is this, is that they're reevaluating perennial yield with what's called the State Water Initiative, sometimes called NWI, the Nevada Water Initiative. There's a couple pilot projects in Railroad Valley and Pine Valley, so in eastern Nevada, to see how they're going to do this. Effectively, in the short story is this, that the science that was used to develop perennial yield was very, very good at the time, and it stood the test of time for a long time. But as more scientific techniques and our understanding of the aquifer, the connectivity of the aquifer really underneath the ground, as well as the recharge and discharge components of those estimations got tighter, there's now a need to reevaluate really the basins of the state. So there's 256 of them. My guess is that, let's use Carson River, so basin 103 being Dayton, basin 102 being Churchill. They'll probably take a closer look and split those up into smaller subunits and manage the water even closer, if that makes sense. So it's not that it's going to it's probably just going to get more complex, honestly. And for good or for bad, I don't know. Sometimes I think simple handshake agreements work real well too, but that's for another day. So anyways, we have conjunctive management. That's really kind of a big story that I think is really important for you all as commissioners to understand and just have knowledge of. And that's really the purpose of this, is just to provide you the information. We've done this for all the counties that are involved, some of the water purveyors we presented to. So that's really fundamentally the purpose of this presentation, is just to provide you with information and a resource to help understand how it affects your county. Next slide, please. We did talk about, what happens if a groundwater right is found if a groundwater well is found to impact a surface water supply. There's been no formal recognition of how you would offset, but there are quite a few strategies that have been floated out there. So during the non-irrigation season, which is October 1 to March 31st, you can release dedicated surface water rights from upstream reservoirs. Now, there's limited upstream reservoirs in the Carson River, but there's not zero. Carson Water Subconservancy District actually owns 2 of them. We own the Lost Lake reservoirs. There's 2 small ones up in Alpine County, California, and waters in Mud Lake in Douglas County. That's available. That we work with partners to do just this: put use. We don't place the water to beneficial use, but your constituents do. So there's opportunities there, and I want to make sure that's clear. We have early irrigation season, so when it's not under regulation, from April 1 to June 30th, we release surface water again from upstream reservoirs. can use effluent, so reclaimed water recharge to offset some of that potentially. Of course, there's a lot of permitting involved with effluent discharge, but it's still conceptually a good idea. And then during the late irrigation season, July 1 through September 30th, downstream users can place a call for water mitigation within the Carson River segments where groundwater pumping occurs. In short, what you can do as an accounting exercise is take your surface water supplies and dedicate that for your impacts to groundwater pumping. It's accounting, but it makes sense because you're offsetting those flows. You're making the river whole with water that you're not diverting otherwise. So that's just another strategy that's potential, which is probably the best strategy out of the bunch there, at least what I can see. So go ahead, next slide, please. So key takeaways, I'll just close here. The first, the regional system is generally stable today. The Carson River flows are becoming more variable and less predictable. And third, groundwater is playing an increasingly important role across the basin. The use is going up, and the conjunctive management is changing how the water will be regulated. And finally, the future of the system depends on proactive planning and regional coordination. That's really our role. You know, we look over the entire watershed, looking at just how to, I say we're the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District. And I remember this when I did my hunter's education way back when, said preservation is the non-use of resource. Conservation is the wise use of resource. So I'm not against using water by any means, but our agency looks at how to make the best use of it. And it's a tight resource, and people will be talking about this after I'm long and I'm gone, and it's perennial favorite. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.
Do we have any questions, Commissioner Jacobson?
Thanks, Chair. Can we go back to the potential litigation strategies?
Yeah.
And I should have maybe stopped you when we were there.
Right.
I
think it's one of the last ones, Martha.
Yeah, it's like third to the last slide. Can you tell me more about that reclaimed water recharge? You've got it twice there.
Yeah, so the idea being that you could probably recharge that aquifer so that the capture is not necessarily the water that was initially in the aquifer, but it's been supplemented with additional recharge from effluent, from your sewer plants, basically.
So did that include some of these like format and these
The geothermal
projects, so pump water out, pump it back in?
So
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Geothermal is not accounted for in the state's perennial yield concept. We talked about how that's changing. The problem with geothermal is typically it's high total dissolved solids. It's just more of a brine.
Right. It's deeper water.
Not always, but yeah.
But so I guess I was using that as an example, but probably was not fitting for an example. So I apologize for that. But regarding the reclaimed water recharge, are there ways to pump effluent into the ground?
So yes, there are called you have infiltration wells, basically a reverse well. A lot of it is water quality issues with effluent. And so theoretically, yes, permitting wise and practically depends on the situation.
So, but instead of like our rapid infiltration basin soaking in from the top, we just force that water down.
Yeah.
But so what you're saying is that the soaking in actually helps filters and cleans that water?
Generally speaking, yes, the soil works as a pretty good filter.
Right.
Yeah.
So skipping that step is probably why we don't just pump effluent down into the.
There are some successful cases of infiltration wells within the state. There's also a long list of failed attempts, the feasibility of it has always been in question. The challenge with infiltrating water via well is where does it go? Because it doesn't stay still. Groundwater still has a flow path. And so if you put 100 acre feet down a well, how much of that can you account for as actually doing the purpose that it's intended for, whether it's for this offset or for storage. And that's usually what these previous concepts of infiltration wells have been for, is I want to take my surface water rights and pump them down so I can extract them later in time, effectively using the aquifer as a reservoir. When that water migrates, maybe you only get 70%, 50%. And those are always the figures that are the most challenging to identify and then to place into practice. But there are some successful cases. Truckee Meadows Water Authority has some, so they take their surface water rights and pump them down.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just got a comment. I tag on what Commissioner Jacob was saying. I was going to say Tumwell has a very successful reclaimed water recharge. And I think it's something, I know it's probably expensive, but probably something that we should explore. And I'm really, my curiosity was piqued on the fact that despite, and I think it's worth pointing out, but despite the residential growth that we've experienced in the Dayton Valley, given that some of those ranches are now reduced or non-irrigated, it's actually shown downstream an increase in flow downstream. I think that's worth pointing out. And you know, my family's farmed and ranched in the state of Nevada for generations, including in the Dayton Valley, and onions and potatoes. But I think that shows how much water alfalfa takes to irrigate. But the data's there. I mean, we've added homes, we've taken away ag use, and we've increased the water availability downstream.
Yeah.
And I think that's very curious, but the data is there.
So you done? So I don't envy you on your job at all when you go out and talk to people, because water is kind of a topic that if someone else is getting more water, you're stealing it from somebody else. That we're not getting more. But I noticed that when they're talking about the different decrees, you can't compare one basin to another at all. And as far as I'm concerned, Humboldt is so much different than the Carson. Carson's different than Walker. Walker's different than Truckee. So coming up with these studies, I don't think we have enough money. We'll spend more money studying stuff than I think.
Yeah.
When you look at a well right next to somewhere and say, how are we going to analyze that well? Well, first of all, what's it 50 feet away, right? Because it's right where you're at. I've got a well that's over 1,000 feet and it's a quarter mile from the Lake Lahontan, and it's pretty much dry.
Yeah.
So, you know, how you can't say I'm pulling water out of.
Well, I'll just add my professional opinion on groundwater modeling.
Uh-huh.
I've been involved with this for long enough, and I'm not a hydrogeologist, but I am an engineer who works with hydrogeologists and groundwater modelers on a regular basis. I think oftentimes there is this sense that, we'll just develop a model and that will tell us what to do. And that's not the case. It's another tool in the toolkit. And I think it's nice to have that information, but at the end of the day, models are they're not perfect. And there's an old adage that says, all models are wrong, some models are useful, which means it's predicated on the assumptions that are in there. And I think that was really important to note here, that we didn't just take the data that was given to us. You have to dig into it. Groundwater modeling, it is an important tool that the state's going to continue to use. The courts have shown that they value groundwater modeling, whether it's here in Nevada or across the West. We've seen increased kind of demand in this type of modeling. But what's really important for you folks is to understand that it really does take somebody to make sure that they peel it back and understand the underlying assumptions that go into that. Because if you take it at face value, it's likely to be wrong and end up harming those who otherwise wouldn't have been harmed by that model outputs. And so I'm a big proponent of doing something like that and making sure that if the money's spent, that it's done right. So that's my answer to that.
I agree. So I have a feeling I'm going to be calling you pretty soon, and so I can sit down and have a conversation with you about water rights, especially on this reach. thank you for the demonstration. I appreciate it. I'll get used to seeing you in other places.
All right, Mr. Cousins, I appreciate your work and obviously do not want your job, but your presentation was great. And as a surface water owner, I greatly appreciate your work. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Commissioner
I
Hendricks.
do just have one question about capture. They talk about the surface water migrating to the aquifer. Does it ever migrate back?
It does. You know, water is self-stabilizing. I mean, we know this. You put a glass of water, shake it up, it'll level out pretty quick. The challenges with groundwater pumping is that you create kind of a topography underground of different water level measurements. It doesn't lower it all at the same rate everywhere across the basin. And because of the way the soils can be tight, there's pore space, that takes time. And oftentimes the time to equalize isn't long enough to make that up. So, but you're right, sometimes it does, but that still, it's not that it's complicated, but you have a well and it creates what's called a cone of depression around the well. And so that's now a lower hydraulic gradient that can cause subsurface flow from the nearby river to flow into that hole down gradient, or you can actually create it where it's now your cone of depression is actually connected to the surface water source. So there's two ways in which water leaves surface water supplies by the function of groundwater pumping.
My only concern is that when that conversation is being had, it's only talked about the surface water feeding the aquifer and never the other way around.
Yeah, I thank you very much for your time, and I guess I'll just leave with this. I think there's a major discussion that has to happen throughout the state to recognize that if the state decides to go the route that the surface water, the senior water users, that's it can be devastating to the economy. And I'm a big proponent of the doctrine of prior appropriation. I've changed my views on that because I've seen how well it works, and the guys that set that up 150 years ago set up a system that really works, and it's withstood the test of time. But there's just some unique challenges with existing groundwater rights and existing senior water rights. So I was very, very happy that the state of the Carson City will seem to be somewhat, because it's a different system, not have to be everything undone, because that might just be a real mess that might not be good for anybody. So
I did have one more thing. When we did our wellhead protection, how the water was flowing into the thing, and to me, I'm a big proponent on make sure you don't put the gas station into that area because you can contaminate, right?
Yeah.
But we also noticed that we have a difference of flow in some of the wells to where instead of coming from, say, west to east, they turn around and go east to west, another part of the thing, because of either like a dam or even canals that act like a dam because they fill up.
Yeah.
Right. And you start getting it at that time of the year, you can change direction, stuff like that. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about that flow actually filling back into a basin because of it.
And I think that's what the Nevada Water Initiative is going to be looking at. This bigger project, which is an extensive project, by the way, is going to be looking at those exact circumstances. The concept model that each basin is just one big bathtub doesn't hold water, pardon the pun. But there's water down there, but there are certain areas whether it's faults, canals, rivers that act as aquatards or as flow paths for the water underground, and that just need to be understood better to manage the water to its best use.
Well, thank you. And me personally, I really appreciate the presentation. You're talking my language. I love it. So thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to talking with you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of our presentations. We're going to go on to Commissioner County Manager's reports. Go ahead and start with Commissioner Hockaday.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the county manager and code enforcement for working an issue here in Mason Valley with me. Dealing with some code enforcement, of course, for different people in different areas. Also, thank you to the sheriff for the enforcement he had going on in Smith Valley. I know there's a lot of people that were unhappy with their speeding tickets. maybe they'll slow down next time when they travel through. But I do appreciate them coming out and taking care of some of the issues that were going on in the Smith Valley area. Apology for missing the Smith Valley Citizen Advisory Board meeting last night. Felt like it'd probably be a little bit better for me to go listen to my oldest granddaughter sing the national anthem at the ice hockey game up at Tahoe. Very enjoyable evening watching the game and listening to her sing. And that's about all for the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Commissioner Casanelli.
Thank you, Chair. Attended a coffee and conversation with the Dayton Chamber. Attended a training, spent a couple hours with the Central Lyon, North Lyon, and Story County fire districts. Watched their training. They had a structure fire simulator. Got a whole deeper respect for those guys, what they do. It was very interesting. Attended the Dayton Valley Conservation District Board. We have hired our new conservation tech. Had an opportunity to meet Mr. Cousins that we just heard the presentation from. We've got grant funding coming up for this summer for woody debris removal project. Got to wait for the high water to go down, so hoping to have that going by June. Attended the Carson City Lincoln Day dinner. I signed up again after many years as a assistant coach for T-ball team with the Silverado Little League, and the only reason I bring it up is back to earlier today, Dr. Holmes in our Child Abuse Prevention Month, something that changed from coaching when I did years and years ago was I had to spend about 4 hours online training in child abuse and awareness, and that we didn't have to do that years and years ago, and it was good. I mean, it wasn't just, it was, first aid and stuff like that as well, but a lot of it was geared towards child abuse and child abuse awareness. And my wife did the same thing, but I think she got certified for a Little League in Dayton, Ohio, not Dayton, Nevada. So, but anyway, good to see that work. Speaking of Dayton, Ohio, I granted or participated in an interview from a reporter in Dayton, Ohio that is doing a story on the different Daytons around the country. So I gave him some information on the history of Dayton, Nevada, and Commissioner Jacobson set the precedent. So I just want to say happy birthday to my wife today on the record, and happy Easter to everyone this weekend. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hendricks.
I too attended the joint fire training exercise, and it was very interesting. I also attended the NACO Public Lands and Natural Resources Board meeting and attended 2 more sessions of the Rural Energy Academy cohort, and there's been a lot of good information coming out of that. Most recently with workforce development and the need for us to get started on that right away. And I been working with Andrew on that, and he's going to he's turned over that job to NNDA, and they'll be working on that so that we'll be ready when that development comes. Attended the NACO Board of Directors meeting, and then last night I attended the Stagecoach Advisory Board, and our Community Development Director came and gave a presentation on the laydown yard that's going to be that's already being built there, and appreciate him coming out because they kind of came in skeptical, and by the time he was done, they were very comfortable with the project. So thank you for coming.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair. attended two, not one, but two City of Fernley 25th anniversary meetings. Had a Boys and Girls Club meeting, getting ready for a fundraising event. Visited City Hall to check out how court was running. And realize the quicker we can get back to normalcy, the better for those folks. I did visit the new and remodeled court in Fernley, and that's looking great. I believe Mr. Homestead has some information on that as well. Attended the Fernley Chamber of Commerce Gala. They recognized a lot of great businesses, individuals in Fernley, and they do a lot there in the city of Fernley. Zoomed in on the NACO Board of Directors meeting, and attended the Fernley City Council meeting last night. That's all I have.
Thank you. And I attended the Fernley City Council meeting. Also attended a joint meeting of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources and Joint Interim Standing Committee on Growth and Infrastructure in Carson City. That was about a 7-hour long project in that meeting, but it was really good. Basically got a overview of the data centers, the trends, water and power needs, and got a presentation from NV Energy, Nevada Rural Electric Association, the PUC, and industry representatives in Google. And so in that time period, at least we got to know representation from a lot of different people. But the way the legislation works is we only meet, once every 2 years, but the interim meetings happen year round. And so we can kind of get a little insight of what the state's going to do, or what they're looking at, or if they're going to do anything. So I think it's important that we attend those kind of meetings. I also attended the Nevada Association of Counties Public Lands Natural Resource Committee, Nevada Association of Counties General Board meeting. And I had a little announcement on that one. That our executive director, Vincent Guthrow, moved on to work. He took James Settlemeyer's position at what's the initials?
The Department of Conservation and Natural Resources.
Thank you. And so he took on that position. So at Nevada NACO, we're going to be looking for a new person to step in. And right now we have, let me see, Amy Hyde Sutherland from Health and Human Services Manager for NACO. She's going to step in as the interim director for NACO. So those are some of the changes that have happened. I attended the National Association of Agriculture and Rural Affairs Steering Committee, and did attend a Fernley Candidates Night, and that was different, but it's nice to get out and talk to the people instead of going to the meetings, going out and actually talking to people and telling them what we've been doing. And I want to give a shout out to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation in Fernley. They had a great event in Fernley, and I'm glad to see it still going on there. That brings us to County Manager.
Andrew Haskin, Lyon County Manager. It's been a pretty busy couple of weeks, but for the group, I just have a couple of things I wanted to update you on. Been working on the service plan for the North Lyon Power General Improvement District. We had a meeting yesterday with NNIC. Mr. Foley's got updated draft of that. We've got a couple of things we're working to finalize, but hopefully we'll have that back to the board soon. So we're continuing work on that. Also, I've had a few meetings on our lands bill and trying to keep that moving forward. And I hope to have kind of an updated map to the board here shortly as to what we're looking to do there. You may remember I gave an update a while back that there, since we had had proposed the map, there was a couple of conflicts that came up, and so we've been working on trying to resolve that kind of before we bring it back to the board for approval. So we'll see where that goes. And then finally, I had a productive meeting with Mayor Fernley. It's my monthly meeting. Really good discussion. I think having that interaction back and forth, sharing what we're working on and collaborating more is really helpful. So I look forward to continuing to do that. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Yeah,
Commissioner Hendricks?
I have a question about the service agreement. I want to know if we're on track to have that filed by the deadline on the 6th, and if we've mapped out the calendar for required meetings per NRS 308070.
So I don't know. We've submitted that back to the developer for their comments, and there's a couple of pieces of information that we still need. So it's really going to depend. The 6th is Monday, so depends on when we get that back and how we can get that turned around. So I don't have an answer for you there.
Okay.
Commissioner Jacobson?
Last night's city council meeting, internally, they'd heard back on some of their lands bill, I believe. We have not heard back on ours.
So their lands bill is separate from ours, and some of that was already in process before we even really got started with ours. And they have two different ones as well. There was one that was actually approved back in 2014. I'm not sure if that's what they were talking about, or if the new one that they're going forward with for the try-to piece of it. So I'm not sure.
It was the
southwest piece. Okay, I'll have to go back and look at their meeting and see what was going on. Yeah, I do know that was included as part of a proposal for Congressman Amidei. We've been trying to get these conflicts worked out, and so ours was not included as a part of that. And we're hoping to get it included as a part of that moving forward, but we just got to make sure that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Roger that thing.
Yeah, I think they took that component firmly and put it in with the Washoe one.
Right.
And so that was put in a long time ago, even though it's part of our county and they want to see our whole county go in all at once. They jumped the gun. So it was like, okay, well, it's already in. So,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I do want to, what Jeremy had to say as far as the power grid, I want to see that date as soon as possible.
We'll do our best on that.
Thank you. Okay, elected officials reports. And nobody online, nobody in the room. Go to appointed officials reports.
In front of Josh, because he's probably getting a lot more money or something. Doug Holmes, the facility director for the record. I'm really proud of my staff. City of Yerington hosted a pesticide applicators class Monday and Thursday this week, and I had 9 of my employees there, and I believe Dustin had 3 of his roads department people there. And they'll be going in to take the state test so we can get certified in that. We used to work under the weed control district for that, but now we'll have our own licenses or our certifications. The Dayton building's moving right along. They're doing the stem walls right now, and hope to have the floor poured by first week in May. So then once that's poured, then the walls will be going up. So that's moving right along. Fernley Justice Court. I hope to think we added to Fernley's Main Street, added a little pizzazz to it. So that building's come along really well. We're hoping to get the C of O tomorrow from the city of Fernley if all of our ducks are in a row, for the contractors' ducks in a row. And that's going to be a good facility because Fernley Municipal Court will be moving over there and their staff too. So it'll be a nice one-stop shop for people that have to see the judge or district attorney and the JPO. So anything
And then we've been busy turning water on because of the warm weather and all that and already weed problems and everything else are sprouting up. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions, comments? Thank you very much. Still under appointed officials.
Josh Fuller, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. I just wanted to update you a little bit on the Dayton Depot. The building permit was finally issued yesterday, so they're ready to move forward. As we got a little farther into it, the Historical Society decided that they want a different roof on it. They would prefer a cedar shake composite look roof, which is going to be $58,392.46 more than what the original metal roof would have been. So they're holding a meeting on April 8th the Historical Society is to authorize funding that additional and write a check to the insurance to change that roof to have a different original look to it instead of what was put on partway through.
Commissioner, I got two commissioners. Mr. Jacobson,
Does that change our fire insurance at all? That's what I was getting.
Not to my understanding.
Maybe a
It's
miracle.
not gonna be a cedar shake. It's going to be a roof that looks like a cedar shake. We wouldn't allow cedar shake.
Yeah, very good. I heard cedar shake and I was like, oh, the insurance companies are drilling now. Yeah, for sure.
It looks more like a masonite composite, I think. So it's a dense.
Yeah.
It's got a fire rating.
It does. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We don't want an actual cedar shake roof on there. In addition to that, the IT department has just finished implementing a fax solution so that we can eliminate all of our physical fax lines and save money by doing that. So now faxes will come in through a compliant email type of a system, and we can send them out from our computers instead of having to go to a machine, scan them in, and fax them through a fax machine. It's going to save us money on the fax lines, which are running somewhere between $50 and $60 per line that we have out there. And so over time, it's going to be more cost efficient, and we'll print less paper as well because we're not having to print those faxes. We can electronically get those. And then this one isn't quite as good of news. District Court. Good news is they were able to fill one of their vacant law clerk positions, or their vacant law clerk position. It's been over a year that's been there. We really should have, when we raised the district attorney salaries, raised that salary as well at the same time. But the only way they could fill the position was to do a higher, instead of the entry level of the range, to closer to mid-level, which if we would have adjusted it the same as the others, it's actually similar to what that range would have gone to. So good news is we're able to fill that position starting in June. The bad news is the other district court judge came in and said, well, my guy's been there for a significant amount of time and he should be making at least what the new guy is coming in without any experience. So that'll be on a future agenda. I just want to give you a heads up. That's the background to it. In case you have any questions, reach out to me and I can cover this too. And that's all I have for today, because you're going to get your fill with me tomorrow, and I apologize ahead of time. But I will bring chocolate.
Yeah.
Thank you. Still appointed officials reports? Do we only have one page on this? Okay. Okay, gonna move on. Number 11, advisory board reports. Seeing none, we'll go on to number 12, the consent agenda. Action will be taken on all items. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and may be acted upon by the Board of County Commissioners with one action and without an extensive hearing. Any member of the board or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed, acted upon separately during this meeting. Does anybody want to pull Commissioner Jacobson?
Actually, on 10, did Gavin want to present on anything on that, or was that just for us? If so, I wanted to
thank him for his update. No, I just want to make sure we didn't skip you. Sorry, Chair. He went to all that work. I thought maybe he wanted to show it off.
So does anybody want one pulled from the consent agenda? Any member of the public want to pull one from the consent agenda? Okay, I bring it back to the board for motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items 12A through 12L.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Brings us back to the regular agenda. Public hearing on planning items. For possible action to approve the request from Nevada Cement LLC Company LLC for master plan amendment to change the designation from employment and resource to industrial on 3 parcels. Then that total approximately 462.27 acres in Fernley at 1290 West Main Street and 2 unaddressed locations, APN 021-04201 and 021-57108 and 021-58101, PLZ 2025-106. And are you going to present both these at the same time? Should I read them both in and then act on them?
I'm not, they're separate items.
Okay,
Chair.
Move on.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Louis Carriola, Senior Planner. So there will be 2 presentations today for Nevada Cement, the first being a master plan amendment, the second being a zoning map amendment. We will be presenting them separately because there's a difference in the APNs being considered for each item. So to begin, these parcels and the subject parcel shown are all at the northern reach of Lyon County. We don't see a lot of items up here, but as we can see on the right, the highlighted parcel is the site of the existing Nevada Cement plant, approximately 267 acres. It's the largest of our subject parcels, and I think notably they are all located north of Highway 80. And then we can also see the county boundaries with Washoe County up to the northwest and a little finger of Story County jutting up near these subject parcels. So we're zoomed in here with an image from the county's GIS showing the 3 parcels under consideration for master plan amendment today under this item. There's a 4th parcel noted, also owned by Nevada Cement, and it is depicted here because it will be part of our upcoming item for the zone change, and it is part of the larger discussion. Notably for the master plan amendment, the total of the parcels is on the order of 462 acres. So we'll run through a little background here. To begin, Nevada Cement approached community development in September of 2025, and we held a roundtable meeting with them. Roundtable meetings allow developers and potential applicants to review preliminary plans and then solicit comments from multiple departments in community development, sometimes roads. We'll have applicable fire district, and we'll offer ideas for entitlements. And then in this case, what was determined was that master plan amendments and zoning map amendments would be required because Nevada Cement is intending on expanding their plant to the north on a 160-acre parcel. Throughout that roundtable process and in preliminary discussions, staff recognized that their 2 commonly owned parcels in the region also should receive the same sort of amendment treatment here, with the goal of having future development proposals all be under the same standards. So what we're seeking here is consistent master plan designations and consistent zoning designations for what ultimately will be all 4 parcels, although again, their expansion plans are only to the parcel directly north of the existing plant. So the applicant provided a site plan. It is included in your attachments to the staff report. It depicts their preliminary plans for expansion. We can see again the existing plant highlighted on the left, and then on the right a rendering into the expansion area in that 160-acre parcel to the north. It is important to recognize, of course, that development cannot be approved through the items we're hearing today. These are just designations for master plan and zoning that we're considering, but the reasoning for these proposals is depicted in the applicant's submittal. The next two slides, well, this slide and the next slide are part of the packet of pictures submitted by the applicant. In this case, we can have the vantage point of being at the top of one of those cement silos already in place. I believe 110 feet up, roughly 110 feet is the vantage point we're seeing here. So this is from the existing plant parcel. On the left, we're looking east. We can see the surrounding lands are not developed, relatively flat. And then when we look west, we can see the office buildings in West Main Street. We can note a rail spur tying into the site. And I think what's important when we look at these photos, we can recognize the existing cement plant does relatively dominate the landscape here. It is the most notable feature. This picture is from the expansion parcel to the north. On the left, we're looking says southwest, total location, southwest area of that subject parcel. So Commissioner Jacobson and Director Henderson and a number of community development staff were afforded a tour by Mr. Jared Kupchak, who's here today. It's project manager and the applicant. And they showed us the areas where they're proposing their expansion. So it was quite informative for staff. But again, I think we can see from these photos that there's no adjacent development in this area to impact with the potential expansion of the plant. So as we might imagine, when we're in the city of Fernley, the planning process would include correspondence with Fernley. The 2020 master plan does designate this area as being within the cooperative planning area. So when we look on the right, that's a screenshot from our general northerly master plan map adopted in 2020, or as part of the 2020 master plan. And that hatched area is the cooperative planning area. So the subject parcels that are noted there, again, that's all 4 parcels, even though this proposal is only to amend the master plan designation for 3 parcels. We can see the existing plant there in dark gray is designated employment. And then the 2 other parcels, and it's difficult to see, I recognize on these maps, but they are designated as resource. And then one of their subject parcels, the one in teal there, is already designated industrial. And next slide. So we'll jump right into here to the zoning, just as we discuss every time with zoning. Most parcels in Lyon County still hold the zoning names from our expired development code Title 10 in 2018, when the county adopted our current development code Title 15. We adopted the zoning consistency matrix, which converts the old district names to the applicable district names today. So on the right, we see shading taken from the county's GIS application for planning with the zoning layer. And the applicable zoning designations are RR20 in pink, and then M1 for the existing plant, which is currently subject to heavy industrial suburban zoning. I call attention to this because when we have the discussion in the next item about zoning, there'll be a little nuance about what we're doing with the designation there. But the takeaway is that the 3 of the existing NV Energy or NV Cement parcels are subject to RR20 zoning and 1 to HIS zoning. So in this presentation and the next, I've included a few more slides than you see typically for master plan and zoning amendments. I think it was important for this project to run through some of the planning process and how we make findings and how we review submittals. Normally, the first place we will look for master plan and zoning changes is into chapter 3 of the master plan, the land use chapter. Within that chapter, we have tables that display master plan designations and then what are referred to in planning parlance as the compatible zoning districts. So we can see boxed out there the Title 15 zoning districts that are compatible with the proposed industrial designation include, as you might expect, all the industrial zoning district names, as well as planned unit development. On the right, we can see the examples of uses include heavy manufacturing. And that is how our development code would define the existing plant. And then, of course, any future expansion, we can see in the description and characteristics for the industrial designation in the master plan that these uses typically involve more intensive work processes. And I think that would certainly describe cement plant. We look at the existing designation of employment for the current plant, the 267 acres for the current plant. And we might ask, why is it that we would be changing to industrial when per this table, heavy industrial is compatible with the employment designation? When we read through the description characteristics and the examples of uses for the employment designation, I think the first thing that jumps out is what's highlighted there, which is light manufacturing. So the intent of the employment designation in the master plan is a slightly less intensive set of uses than is contemplated for industrial land. It does accommodate more office and commercial type uses and even some residential uses. So that is why, in staff's opinion, it is entirely appropriate to move the existing plant into an industrial designation in the master plan. And then we can look at the resource section as well. So 2 of the 3 subject parcels for this item are already designated resource. Currently, they're already out of compliance between zoning and master plan. And then when we read the description and characteristics of the resource designation, they typically are lands on the outskirts of developed areas. So I've underlined some of the prominent language that does not match these parcels. They're not within BLM or U.S. Forest Service lands. They're privately owned. They're not away from developed lands or existing utilities and roads. These properties are bound by railroad spurs, interstate highway and West Main Street. They are not constrained by significant environmental topographic features. So I think that resource designation is being carried forward from the 2010 master plan into the 2020 master plan. And at this point, we have recognized an expanding development footprint in this region of Lyon County. And we'll see some of the photos coming up that'll depict some of that development. So again, we're just proposing the 3 parcels all get changed to industrial. The findings for master plan amendments found in Title 15 are within Chapter 210.03, and I will run through sort of a summary here in the next slides of each of the findings. So first, and I think there's a lot of information on the slide to take in to the west of the existing plant, across West Main Street, there's a Love's truck stop. There, even west and northwest of Love's are large, very large tilt-up warehouse buildings. I know they've been constructed relatively recently because I was unable to find any GIS images of those buildings. But the point would be this area is moving towards more intense development types. And these development types are associated with industrial and commercial endeavors. So finding A asks if the proposed amendment is in compliance with the master plan by promoting its goals, objectives, and policies. We did include a number of those policies within the staff report. I'll just call attention to a couple being, locating industrial development as designated in a countywide land use plan or as determined by criteria. In this case, we're almost doing this a little bit in reverse. The existing plant is already there. But as far as moving towards designations that allow for compact development patterns, for reasonable expansion plans from the plant, we are requesting approval for these designation amendments in order to facilitate that, which of course would feed right into providing for a more diverse economic base. We would recognize the tax revenue for a developed parcel as well as the employment opportunities. Go to the next slide. Finding B asks for compatibility with the existing master plan or adjacent uses and reflecting a logical change in land use. So again, I think I've kind of covered a lot of the topics that are pointed out as part of the justification for the findings. Expanding to commonly owned property that is adjacent would reflect a logical change in the land use. And then compatibility between master plan and zoning is what we're requesting today, so that that development process can continue and be consistent. Finding C discusses response to changing conditions and that the request represents a more desirable utilization of land. Again, I think I've already sort of covered this. These lands are now adjacent to area that is being developed, and in particularly the resource designation does no longer seems appropriate here. We can go forward. We seem to be going backwards. Okay, so we do need to go to D. So this is an important one. One of your attachments is a letter from the City of Fernley's Planning Department. As previously mentioned, these properties are within the cooperative planning area with Fernley. On the right is an image from the City of Fernley's North Area Plan. I highlighted the subject parcels here so that we can see what the City of Fernley has designated for future land uses in this area. That dark gray, where the plant expansion is proposed, is designated by Fernley's North Area Plan as heavy industrial, a lighter gray as light industrial. So again, our designations would coordinate with this conceptual plan by the City of Fernley. So when we're looking at this finding about not adversely affecting the implementation of the master plan goals, objectives, and actions, we of course have to consider Fernley's long-term goals as well. So staff is comfortable that this proposed amendment would be consistent with the designations in the North Area Plan. I think an important item to note is that this is a conceptual plan with conceptual roadways. So as we can see that thick line that runs through the subject parcels, or two of the Nevada cement parcels, is a roadway alignment. So that's not a surveyed alignment. That's not something that's been formalized. And as we'll see moving forward through these presentations, staff's review and of future development proposals would include a coordination with the City of Fernley. And I think even more notably, the Nevada Cement Group will be coordinating directly with Fernley to make sure their long-term transportation goals are met. The intent of these types of plans is to ensure certain regions and different sections of their jurisdiction are connected. So staff's under the opinion that Lyon County will have sort of a sideline role through how that is worked out, but we will condition any future development proposals to ensure that Fernley has or maintains their authority to work with Nevada Cement on adjusting their development footprint as appropriate. The last finding discusses orderly physical growth in the county, compact development patterns, and efficient expenditure of funds for public services. So again, expansion to an adjacent commonly owned property certainly makes sense in this regard. And this finding was likewise met, as were the others. The Planning Commission heard presentations from staff on March 10, 2026, and voted unanimously 5-0 of the commissioners present, Commissioners Loomis and Baker were absent, to forward a recommendation of approval to the board. And the recommended motion is on the screen. I am available for questions, of course. And again, Mr. Kupchak is here if you have questions for Nevada Cement.
Do you have any questions or comments from the board? Do we have any public comment? Seeing none in the room and none online. Oh, do you have public comment?
And Biggs for the record. So I was just wondering, you might not be able to answer this, but like dust suppression and, you know, how much water and where's that water coming from to run all that? That's just, yeah, my concern, but, and doesn't that work? Well, I'll have to do a little more. It looks great. I think we're gonna need it, but I'm just concerned about the water and dust suppression and, you know, sometimes there's stuff blowing out of it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. With that, I'll make a motion. Based on the aforementioned findings A through E, I move that Lyon County Board of County Commissioners approve the request from Nevada Cement Company LLC for master plan amendments to change designations from employment and resource to industrial on 3 parcels that total approximately 462.27 acres. APNs 021-042 01 021 571 08 and 2021 581 01 PLZ 2025 106.
Second. We have a motion from Commissioner Jacobson, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor say aye. Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to 13B. For possible action to approve the request from Nevada Cement Company LLC for zoning map amendments to change the zoning from Title 10 district name of RR5 rural 5th rural residential 20-acre minimum for 3 unaddressed parcels that total approximately 208.10 acres to the Title 15 district of H1S heavy industrial suburban, and to update the Title 10 district name of M1 general industrial to HIS for 1 parcel of approximately 267.4 acres at 1290 West Main Street in Fernley, APN 01021 58101 and 021 57108 and 21 57105 and 021 04201 PLZ 2026002 Senior Planner Louis Carriola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will look remarkably similar. So I did try and cover most of the discussion in the previous presentation. So I can kind of just hammer through these first slides and get to the discussion on the zoning. Again, these parcels are all located in the north part of the county, north of Highway 80. We see the existing plant parcel highlighted here. We've already been through this slide. The difference here is that we're considering for amendment all 4 parcels, those 3 northerly parcels, and then the existing plant parcel, which we see highlighted. So now the acreage in total has moved up to 475.5 acres. I think the most of this presentation will focus on the existing plant designation and its change. So again, we're still moving under the same timeline that we did in the last item, which was initially discussing future development plans with Nevada Cement back in September of 2025. And now these amendments are the first step before they can submit for development plans and proposals. Once again, we see the proposed plant expansion, and once again, no development can be approved today through these amendments. We've seen these pictures again before, so I think we can just kind of keep moving through this slide. Thank you, Martha. Again, we can pause here. So again, we're in the cooperative planning area. The master plan designations per your last vote for these parcels, it would be all 4 of these subject parcels is now industrial. So our proposed zone change to heavy industrial suburban, as we recognize would be consistent with that designation. All right, so now we'll jump into the zoning. So as we discussed previously, the zoning consistency matrix determines what the applicable zoning is for properties today. All those pink parcels to the north are all subject to rural residential 20-acre minimums. If we recall from those charts from the land use tables in the last presentation, the RR20 district is not going to be compatible with the existing now master plan designation of industrial. However, when we look at the matrix, the M1 designation from Title 10 that exists on the current parcel already converts to heavy industrial suburban. So, why are we even going through this amendment? Because if they brought forward a development plan, we would look at the allowed uses in HIS already. We would look at the development standards for HIS already. So this next slide kind of just discusses this, recognizing that we have future development plans coming and potentially some boundary line adjustments between the existing plant parcel and the expansion parcel. If those parcel lines need to be moved around or some other mapping exercise needs to be submitted, it's kind of difficult sometimes to explain all of that. And there's delays when title reports come up with M1 on one parcel and HI in another one. And then we have to explain the zoning consistency matrix every time we have to talk about these parcels. So staff recommended that the applicant include this parcel, even though it is important to recognize they're already subject to the same HIS zone. So technically, the acreage that will have their zoning standards changed is only on the order of 208 acres because we are only in name changing the existing plant zoning. So again, we've seen this before. Of course, the industrial master plan designation is consistent and compatible with the proposed zoning of heavy industrial suburban. I've included here a list. This, I believe, is it's not all of it. I think it might be all of the list of the allowed uses in the heavy industrial district. We can see that some of the more intensive uses would require a conditional use permit. That's what we see with the C. So, a poultry or meat processing use, a solar generating system, medical or dental offices over 25,000 square feet. Power substations would require conditional permits. Notably, the heavy and light manufacturing in the industrial district does not require a conditional use permit. This does mean that future development plans would be moving through staff's administrative design review process. We would still be recognizing the same findings for conditional use permits at the staff level so that the applicant can, I think, more easily move through this development process within a heavy industrial zone. The findings for zoning map amendments are found in chapter 15.220.05 of title 15. Again, these slides will look familiar. The findings are a little bit different, but the first finding requests consistency with the master plan. You have, of course, just approved the designation of industrial for all these parcels. So the proposed zoning is consistent. And once again, moving towards providing a more diverse economic base and locating business and industry in locations that are consistent with the future land use plan are the policies that were quoted in the staff report. Once again, we have had the same discussion. So there's the North Area Plan from the city of Fermi with their industrial designations for the northern parcels. The finding B requests consistency with adequate public facilities. In other words, are we changing to designations that have development potential without the availability of the appropriate public facilities? And the answer is no, we are not. This site is accessed by a highway, has rail lines, local roadways. Lyon County Sheriff's and North Lyon Fire Protection District can provide emergency services. Compatibility with the adjacent or master plan uses. Again, these are topics we've already covered, but this region of Lyon County, north of Highway 80, in this corner here of Lyon County, is dominated by commercial and industrial uses, and then expansion to the adjacent parcel, of course, is the plan. So that obviously is compatible. Again, on March 10, 2026, the Planning Commission heard the request and made the same 5-0 vote to recommend approval. And again, I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, do we have any public comment?
Robin Biggs, for the record, I see that there was a 100,000 gallon water tank on this. I was just wondering if they're gonna be using 100,000 gallons of water monthly, and where will the wastewater and sewage be managed?
Thank you. Bring it back to the board. Motion?
I'll make the motion. First of all, I want to thank Nevada Cement for being in North Lyon County for how many years now? 62 years they've been here. So thank you for that, for your generosity and for investing 500 million in North Lyon County. So thank you. With that, based on the aforementioned findings A and B, I move that the Lyon County Board of County Commissioners approve the request from Nevada Cement Company for zoning map amendments to change the zoning from Title 10 district name of RR5, fifth rural residential 20-acre minimum for 3 unaddressed parcels. The total approximately 208.1 acres to the Title 15 district of heavy industrial suburban, and to date update the Title 10 district name of M1 general industrial to HIS for one parcel of approximately 267.4 acres at 1290 West Main Street in Fernley, APNs 201-581-01, 021-571-08, 021-571-05, excuse me, and 021-042-01 PLZ 2026-002.
Second. We have a motion from Commissioner Jacobson, second by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'll pause here because I think the applicant wanted to make a comment.
Jared Kupchak on behalf of Nevada Cement. I appreciate the commission taking this under consideration and review and approval, especially Commissioner Jacobson for coming out to the plant along with Lewis and Lisa, Gavin, and Ray over in building. Appreciate being able to give you all a tour of what we're looking to do, and appreciate being able to work with Lewis and his great presentations to put this together. It's been great working with that staff. They're very good. Look forward to continuing with this project and working with the county team. Thank you all.
Thank you. So do you guys want to take lunch now, or do you want to keep going through? And we do have a closed session, just so you guys know.
Wow.
Okay, we're going on through. Brings us to number 14A for possible action. Approve change order number 2 for the Rolling A wastewater treatment plant phase 4 expansion project with Resource Development Company to extend the contract time by 31 days for substantial completion and 46 days for final completion due to scope modifications and the need to complete certain weather dependent work. Utilities Director Sean Sinclair.
Good afternoon, Sean Sinclair, Utility Director for the record. So basically kind of what we have going on here is various work change directives throughout the project issued to the contractor necessitated an extra 31 days of construction. And an additional 15 days are needed to complete items that require warm weather. We have to prepare an emergency storage pond. There's some testing on one of our screw presses that we could put warm weather to accommodate that. So it's a total of 46 days. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move to approve change order number 2 for the Rolling A wastewater treatment plant phase 4 expansion project with Resource Development Company, RDC, to extend the contract time for 31 days for substantial completion and 46 days for final completion due to scope modification and the need to complete certain weather-dependent work.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hockaday, seconded by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. 14B for possible action, approve amendment number 2 to task order 116, Rolling A wastewater treatment facility, phase 4 expansion project, construction administration with Dow in the amount to not exceed $112,000 to extend additional construction administration and engineering services required to complete the project. The cost will be funded through the Dayton Sewer Fund. Utilities Director Sean Sinclair.
Good afternoon again, Sean Sinclair, Utilities Director. For the record, what's important to note on this item here, this kind of ties into the previous one, but of this total an estimated amount of $90,400 is attributed to the engineering services required to the defective work that's anticipated to be. So let me back up. $90,000 of this is will be able to be reimbursed through the contract for this out of that 112.
Do we have any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back for a motion.
I'll move to approve an amendment number 2 to task order 116, Rolling A wastewater treatment facility, phase 4 expansion project, construction administration with Dow in an amount not to exceed $112,000 to extend the additional construction administration and engineering services required to complete the project. Funded from Dayton Sewer Fund.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Casanelli, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Brings to item 15. 15A for possible action, approve the master plan for Mark Twain Park, which includes reconfiguring the design, adding additional parking, baseball fields, soccer and football fields, pickleball courts, and other amenities. The Central Lyon County Park Board recommended adoption of number 2 layout as shown in the Mark Twain Master Plan document, which is attached as backup at the March 11th, 2026 meeting. Facilities Director Doug Homestead.
Doug Homestead, Facility Director for record. We've been working on this for quite a while now, probably almost a year now. They did, between the county and us and the board, the park board, we decided on option 2, which is the next page. Right there, yeah. This will require taking out some ball fields, but it'll make for a better park in the long run, and we may as well do it right now instead of later on down the road. They have to take out more ballparks. So, and we're working with it through partway through this. A couple of developers got involved, and along with the county's wishes of an access road, so we don't have one little road going into that park. So, we're going to give them so many feet, about 100 feet or so on the, I guess that would be the south border. And then they're going to give us some additional land up there on the north there. And I think it'll make for a better park, a better use of the land there, and it'll give better access to the park for all areas of the Dayton area there.
Can I ask you a question? Where is the 6 Mile Canyon Road on this?
It is right, you can see it right at the corner of the screen down on the right corner, right there. That's
that one going at an angle, kind of?
Yeah, going at an angle.
Okay.
So the road's gonna come out there and go attached to that road so they can get, so there'd be an exit to that way.
So that little square up on the far right, up top, right above it is the substation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We looked at that road, but it kind of messed up the park to bring people in that way. We're just gonna leave that as like an emergency exit for the fire department or whatever entrance. And So we're working with two developers, one that owns a parcel to the west and one to the east. And once you guys approve this, the developers will start working on the boundary line adjustments. And then we'll get it formally drawn up. Get back to the park people, the park company that's drawing it up, design workshops. And for a fancier drawing.
Does anybody on the board have a question or a comment? I do have one, I'd say it's the top of the ball field at the top. And that one, just because it's sitting backwards to the other ones. Normally you would have like the announcer's spot there, like in the middle, so you can announce for all the fields. And that one's backwards. And then I talked to the county manager and he said something about the sun.
Sun for when you're pitching and stuff. Hit batting.
Well, I kind of go the opposite way because if the sun's, because now you're creating the sun that's going down in the eyes of all the infielders and all the outfielders, which to me could be getting a line drive to the face compared to the pitching into the sun.
Well, if you notice that park is that ball field's in dotted dash lines, it's not for sure that way.
I realize that's a master plan. It's just
right now we're gonna use that area for different stuff right now.
But I think that we should, if we're gonna put something on paper, we should put it on. I would prefer to see it the other way because playing ball, especially on the infield, line drive comes quick. And to me, I would rather it was turned around. And that's the only comment I have on that whole thing.
I will check with the park, see if they are okay with that. And
That can stop it. Yes, this is a master plan, so it can be changed in the future. So we can go back and ask them.
Yeah.
And everything. I'm not trying to stop the process here.
Another thing is, if you do have that connection that wants to put a ballpark, I'd truly like to get a hold of because it's going to take a lot of money to do this. We do have to piecemeal it, but if you have that contact, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Two quick questions. The parking area is pretty extensive. Is that, it looks like, is it intended to be paved parking or is it gonna be just?
Yeah, it's eventually gonna be paid, but I don't know if I have the money to do that up front.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of
Gravel, yeah.
maintenance on that.
But right now they park every which way in there. You
Right.
can't get emergency vehicles in and out of there.
And then my other question is on these announcer stands on the fields, those are typically over 2 stories tall, and I don't know how that gets addressed on the ADA standards and stuff like that now. I mean, I don't know if that's probably a question for later, but I'm just curious how we address those being, they're typically over 2 stories in height. And then there's other codes and things that come into play with that. So I'm just curious.
This is a design, and once this is then we can use Park Tech's money to hire an engineer to actually drop the plans to go to bid.
And another thing that I had for that ball field being flipped around, the restrooms are in the middle and not at that far end. And to me, it's a little league one. And in between innings, that's when all the kids, if they have to go, they have to run and not miss out on the ball game. So I'd rather to where they could just leave their dugout and get to the bathroom.
Okay.
Not worried about everybody else. They can walk. Yeah. Any more questions up here on the board? I'll go to public comment. Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll I'll move to approve the master plan for Mark Twain Park, which includes reconfiguring the design, adding additional parking, baseball fields, soccer and football fields, pickleball courts, and other amenities. On the recommended adoption of option number 2 layout, as shown on the Mark Twain master plan document, which is attached as backup, and with taking those comments from the board into consideration.
I'll second it. So those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. 15B for possible action, approve the addition to the vehicle fleet of an enclosed trailer for the facilities department with the funding of approximately $12,000 to come from the existing budget.
I have money in my budget to purchase this trailer, but I had to come to you guys to change the fleet amount of vehicles the county owns. We're gonna need this trailer, especially for hauling the new boating equipment around. You can't believe how much more equipment there is. The boating equipment and we were gonna get this next year, but county manager said now's better than later, so we thought we better get it now.
Do we have any questions, Commissioner Jacobson?
If you need a place to store this enclosed trailer over the winter time, I'll take care of it.
Would you use your ATV for inside of it?
Any other comments or questions from the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the addition of the vehicle fleet to the enclosed trailer for facilities department with the funding of approximately $12,000 to come from Mr. Homestead's existing budget.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jacobson, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 15C for possible action. Approve the purchase of 3 robotic mowers totaling $32,000 with funding to come from a budget transfer from the general fund contingency. Mr. Homestead.
We bought some mowers last year, put up in Silver City and one at our park or Hay Winters Park. And they've worked out tremendously, cut down on weeds, everything, and they're greener. And with short manpower shortage and stuff, we'd like to get these in place at Silver Stage, Penny Park, and Santa Maria. Try them there and see if they work out. It'll be a little bit bigger units, but.
Any questions or comments?
I'd like to, Chair Keller, if I may, I'd just like to comment. I've seen these existing robotic mowers in action, and I know that 32,000 sounds pretty expensive, but that is money that we can save with staff doing other things, and these are very effective machines, and I would support it.
I had a question for you. Are these interchangeable with the ones that you have right now?
Yes,
I don't know
they're
how
all
they
the same brand.
So if one does break down and you need the build mode, you can just grab one and move it over there.
And download the program into it.
Fantastic. So it's not just.
And they're all monitored by the guys' cell phones. So if someone touches them or messes with them, they send an alert to them. Or if they get stuck somewhere, it'll send an alert to them.
Do they have a GPS on them?
Yes.
So they can find them if they're.
Yep. And if someone steals it, it will not reactivate for anybody. So they got a piece of, they got a boat anchor is what they got.
No, what I meant is there a tracking thing on it to where if they stole them, put it in the garage?
Yes.
Fantastic. Catch them quick. Any other public comment? That's from the public. Bring it back to the board.
I'll move to approve the purchase of 3 robotic lawnmowers totaling $32,000 with funding to come from a budget transfer from the general fund contingency.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Casanelli, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Brings us number 16, advisory board for possible action. Appoint up to 1 member of the Central Lyon Vector Control District Advisory Board, Citizen Advisory Board Liaison, Martha Tapia.
Good afternoon, Martha Tapia for the record. Mr. Ardesco was invited to the meeting this morning and did not receive a response, so I'm unsure if he is present.
And I don't see him online. So Commissioner Hendricks,
Didn't see an end of this term. Is this just no term limit on this board?
I'm unaware of any terms on this board.
Okay.
should there be? Because I know that to remove people off a board is more of a challenge.
It's something that we can look into, but as far as I'm aware, this board currently does not have term limits.
Would it be recommended to do it for a year and while we're working on it, or just limited?
I don't think it was put that way.
Okay, and I have a question. Do we know the makeup of, because that's all of Central Lyon County? Are they all from one area or they kind of spread around?
I tried to look that up in the records I have access to look at old applications for the members that are currently on there, and I was unable to find applications or information on where these board members reside.
Maybe we can just send an email to them and get caught up on that. I just like to get it spread out, if at all possible, not to stop this. Okay, is there any other questions from this board? Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we appoint Devin Ardesco to the Central Lyon County Vector Control District Advisory Board.
A second. Motion by Commissioner Jacobson, second by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to number 18, agenda requests. I'll start off with Commissioner Jake.
17.
Nope. 17A. Proposal action, approved lease agreement between Lyon County and Smith Valley Fire Protection District for Smith Valley Fire to lease a property located at 2 Dew Lane, Smith Valley, Smith, Nevada, 89430 for a term of 10 years with an option for 10 years renewable term with Smith Valley Fire to pay utilities and repairs and maintenance for the term of the lease. County Manager Andrew Haskin.
You just gave Chief Nightingale a scare. Andrew Haskin, Lyon County Manager for the record. So you may remember that a few years ago, well, let me start off. The 2 Day Lane building is the old courthouse building in Central and Smith Valley. You may remember a few years ago, we actually stopped using that building for advisory board meetings due to an issue with the water system and the number of users that were allowed on that water system. Since that time, the fire district has expressed an interest in leasing that building from the county. As a part of this lease agreement, there was a cap on the number of regular users that can be using that building. They just plan on using it for office space. It's right adjacent to one of their fire stations. And they have a need for that additional office space. For the lease itself, I took a look at what we did for Central Lyon Fire for the Stagecoach building a while back and largely mirrored that, just modified the terms to match the circumstances for this building. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have. I know the fire department is here as well.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair. Frank, good to see you here. It's been unoccupied.
Correct.
So if they just pick up the bills and what type of lease are we looking at again? I forget, for the record.
Yeah, for the record, it's a 10-year lease with a 10-year extension option. The no lease payment, but they would pay all the utilities.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say if we're charging, let's not, but sounds great. Appreciate them taking it over and doing the upkeep.
Any other comments or questions? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to approve the lease agreement between Lyon County and Smith Valley Fire Protection District for Smith Valley Fire to lease the property located at 2-Day Lane, Smith, Nevada, 89430 for a term of 10 years with an option for 10 years renewable terms with Smith Valley Fire to pay utilities and repairs and maintenance for the term of the lease.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Now we can go to number 18, agenda requests. I'll start off with Commissioner Jacobson, Commissioner Hendricks, Commissioner Casanelli, Commissioner Hockaday, and I have none. So we'll move on to 19 commissioner comments. Commissioner Jacobson.
Just like to wish everybody a happy Easter and hopefully your Easter baskets get filled.
Commissioner Hendricks. Commissioner Casanelli.
Yep, happy Easter to all.
Happy Easter. And I do want to make a comment that was in our packet that the 7-Eleven truck stop in Silver Springs, they've got their C of O, so they're ready to go. But they'll have their grand opening Friday, May 8th at 9 to 5 all day. They're gonna have a band and everything. Come out, buy your gas in Lyon County so we can get the profits off it. For our county, not the other counties. And that's all I have. So let's go back to public participation.
Robin Diggs for the record. I brought it to some individual's attention. I'd like to bring it again. There's no handicap button on front doors here. With the parking and stuff, it's not always good to go through that side door. The side door handicap button is not working today. And I know the public library got a new door installed to meter the people coming in and out. But they failed to put a handicap button on that door. And that's, we're talking state federal issues. My son is 33 years old, and when he was in kindergarten and my daughter was 18 months old, we had a difficult time getting in and out of the library, and we've been trying for years to get that and the bathrooms handicap accessible. And let's see here. I guess I didn't really hear the 1220, the agenda item 12-1. I think it was all passed for the opiate settlement, and Lyon County is getting $7,509.35. I'd like it to be considered to use that money to partnering with rural Nevada clinics and the jail for the researchers show that Alcoholics Anonymous AA is flawed. I'm not saying get rid of it, but there are two very good research-based non-Christian drug and alcohol addiction, which transfers over to gambling addiction, everything that two of the Carson City rehabs are doing. And it just turns out that instead of letting go and letting God, you take responsibility right away. So I'd like to see some of that money allocated to the jail here, and that Lyon County rural counseling has some serious issues, but that's, I think, we can get in social worker and things, but they have their iPads that they can go into, and they should have their classes on there of the non-Christian based ways of getting help out of jails instead of just sitting in there. And then they continue with I want to say outpatient rehab with some and get involved in that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to, it's 12:32 and we're adjourned. And we will come back up for a closed session.